I can only maintain it for about 5 hours at full strength. After all, he is the second disciple of the fourth elder and exceptionally powerful. Su Bai estimated that Hu Tufeng's strength was similar to Zhao Haoyan, whom he had previously defeated. Even when battling Zhao Haoyan repeatedly in the past, Su Bai had never managed to fully control him. Or perhaps Zhao Haoyan was born cunning and lucky. But that was all in the past. It said that cats have 9 lives. Su Bai had killed Zhao Haoyan many times. Even if he had 9 lives, he probably wouldn't survive. Putting aside these meaningless thoughts, Su Bai began to plan a larger scheme. An hour later, Hu Tufeng knocked on the door of another disciple, Sha Shidi. This Sha Shidi, like Xiao Feng, served under the fourth elder and was 9,000 years old, enjoying considerable power. At that moment, Sha Shidi was counting the money he had recently embezzled in bed. Upon seeing Hu Tufeng suddenly appear, he quickly stored the pieces of the great Dao into his space ring, looking awkwardly at him. Hu Shixiang, why did you suddenly come to find me? Hu Tufeng replied expressionlessly. I need to borrow 200 million. 200 million. That's a lot to borrow. No. Why don't you ask the elder for it? A request for 200 million was simply outrageous. Although Sha Shidi had that much money, why would he lend it to Hu Tufeng for no reason? It was ridiculous. Forget it. If you want to lend it, I'll leave. Hu Tufeng turned to go, making the whole situation quite strange, leaving Sha Shidi puzzled. Was he out of his mind? Just then, Sha Shidi noticed that Hu Tufeng had dropped a crumpled piece of paper as he left. Picking it up, he found it was a letter. Shidi Sha. I have found Kwangma. This guy killed Feng Shidi and stole the Shirkong Gu blade. He told me that the blade can be returned, but only if I give him a sum of money to escape, 1 billion. I am going down the mountain to retrieve him and bring Kwangma to justice. If anything happens to me, please deliver this letter to the master. Hoodie Feng, a greedy look flashed in Shidi Sha's eyes, and a sinister smile curved at the corners of his mouth. That fool Kwangma actually dared to keep the Shirkong Gu blade for himself? He muttered to himself. Hoodie Feng wants to take all the credit? In his dreams, he quickly tucked away the letter, changed into night clothes, and stealthily followed. When they are both injured, I will strike. He licked his lips, a murderous intent surging in his eyes. By then, the treasure will belong to me, the credit will belong to me, and maybe even Elder C will cultivate me as the top disciple. Chapter 367, Framing at the Foot of the Mountain. Starry Sea. Billions of glowing stardust swirled in the purple mist, forming a spiral light band reaching towards the sky. The faintly visible rainbow bridge at the end is the void path connecting the higher dimensional continent. This path has long been in disrepair and was cut off due to concerns about the invasion of the supreme deity. Shidi Sha pressed a breath-concealing talisman to his chest, stealthily following the shadow of Hoodie Feng, the poisoned dart in his sleeve already frosted. Hoodie Feng stood at the edge of the broken rainbow bridge, the Shirkong Gu blade in his hand shimmering with a ghostly blue light. He looked indifferently at the bloody and mangled corpse beneath him, lifted his foot, and kicked it into the starry sea, where the stardust instantly engulfed the body. Shidi Sha hid in the shadows, his eyes narrowing, secretly resenting that he was still a step too late. Kwangma's body had already been dealt with, and the Shirkong Gu blade had fallen into Hoodie Feng's hands. Now all the credit would go to him, and he had come for nothing. His knuckles turned white as he clenched his fists, the poison dart in his sleeve trembling slightly, a sense of killing intent gradually rising. It seemed he had to take action. Just then, Hoodie Feng coldly said, "Come out. I knew you were secretly following me." Shidi Sha's pupils shrank. When did you find out? He stepped out from the shadows. Hoodie Feng did not answer. Give me the blade, Shidi Sha urged. I will hand it over to the master. You're asking for death, Hoodie Feng said, standing with his sword crossed. You want to steal the credit? Stardust surged between the two. The cold light of the poison dart suddenly flashed. Hoodie Feng struck first, his right claw radiating a scarlet malevolent aura, causing the entire starry sea to tremble. Tiger roar destroys the world. The claw wind tore through space, creating 5 pitch-black cracks at the broken edge of the rainbow bridge. Shidi Sha quickly retreated, 3 bone-piercing darts shooting out from his sleeve. Just a mere claw technique. The dart tips glinted with blinding silver light, obliterating the stardust in their path. My shattered star darts can pierce even the Milky Way. Clang. The Gu blade collided with the flying darts, the shockwave scattering the stardust within 100 feet. Hoodie Feng spat blood from his mouth, practicing forbidden techniques in secret. No wonder you dare to follow me. Didn't you also embezzle the void-devouring blade? The junior apprentice, Sha, had 3 bone-deep gashes torn into his left shoulder, but laughed coldly. Suddenly forming hand seals, he summoned 7 poison darts into a lethal constellation formation. If the master knew you killed Brother Mad Horse, the Hornet abruptly shifted his blade technique, the weapon devouring surrounding light. Mad Horse deserved to die? The blade traced an eerie arc, blood immediately spurting from Sha's chest. Yet instead of retreating, he lunged forward, his bloodied palm striking the Hornet's dantian. Explode. Both spat blood and flew backward as a massive whirlpool erupted in the Starcloud Sea, collapsing remnants of the shattered Rainbow Bridge. The Hornet leaned on his blade, half kneeling, while Sha clutched a stab wound piercing his abdomen. Meanwhile, Subai sat cross-legged on his dorm bed, watching the battle through the Yuri faction's psychic detection, slapping his thigh in delight. Well fought. Piles of sunflower seed shells trembled as he laughed, spitting one that landed squarely on Yuri X's gleaming scalp. Wiping his forehead awkwardly, Yuri X remarked, "Commander, that's harder to dodge than a psychic storm. Enough, no more chatter. Proceed with the plan. At your command, my respected leader." Just as Sha stumbled backward dodging an attack, two cold glints flashed from afar. A virus sniper's bullet pierced his lung first, toxic green mist exploding from the wound. Then, 7 armor-piercing rounds from a standard sniper struck his heart precisely, pinning him to the Rainbow Bridge wreckage. Cough. You. Sha stared in disbelief at the bloody hole in his chest, venom already corroding his meridians. Junior Apprentice Sha, I heard your spatial ring holds many Dao fragments. You know what I mean. Of course. Sha understood the Hornet's implication. It was about extorting treasures to fund an escape. This scoundrel had killed Mad Horse, betrayed their sect for profit, and now planned to flee like him. Worse, he expected Sha to cover his expenses. How utterly unlucky. The real blunder was underestimating him. Who knew he'd conspired with inner disciples? That's how Sha fell for the ambush and suffered grave injuries. Trembling, Sha scrawled 1003 in blood on the ground. The Hornet's eyes flared with rage, claws slashing 3 deep wounds across his face. Are you mocking me? Metallic bones gleamed beneath torn skin. Sha convulsed in agony, but shakily added 3 zeros to the number. The Hornet's rigid face twisted into a mechanical sneer. 3 slashes for 3 zeros? Think we're haggling. A cold flash of the void-devouring blade severed Sha's right index finger with a crack. Picking up the spatial ring, he snarled, "Password." The metallic foot crushed the opponent's skull, producing a sound of unbearable strain. Under the starlight, one side of the Hornet's face had completely peeled away, revealing a metallic visage with gears turning. Otherwise, I'll extract your soul and light a lantern. An hour later, with a buzzing sound, the mind control was lifted. The Hornet stood by the bridge, staring at the disciple he had just killed. Suddenly, he was startled and fell to the ground. He focused on the neat knife marks on the disciple's body, each incision perfectly matching the patterns of the devouring blade. Trembling, he raised his hands. But the last memory in his mind was clearly of going to settle scores with Subai. What happened? His temples throbbed, as if countless gears were jammed inside his skull. Did I kill the disciple? This time, Subai had looted all the fragments of the Tao from another little greedy one, totaling over 8 billion. He hadn't expected this little guy to be such a glutton. Compared to his senior brother, the Wind Master, he was equally impressive. These materials would allow Subai to continue advancing further. It seemed that there were plenty of resources to gather in this mountain. After some exploration, he would be ready to set off. The next day at noon, after finishing breakfast, Subai prepared to refine these Tao fragments in the back mountain. An inner sect disciple came to announce a notice. What notice? Subai wiped his hands and peeked out from the kitchen. The inner sect disciple unfurled a jade slip. The third elder is benevolent and has specifically instructed that all disciples, both inner and outer, can participate in the medicinal herb competition. Each outer sect class will also have a quota. He pointed to the end of the notice with a red stamp. The elder said that opportunities for cultivation should not be hindered by sectarian biases. You cooking class should quickly select someone. Subai's eyes lit up. Please convey my gratitude to the third elder. The announcing disciple glanced at Subai. You? Do others agree? You're acting like the boss, TSK. He turned and left. Collecting herbs seemed quite interesting. It appeared that he had to participate. Perhaps he could gain some rare treasures from it. Of course, he first needed to head to the back mountain to retrieve his million-strong army and the Red Army base. To avoid a situation where they would encounter each other while foraging for herbs. That would be a bit hard to explain. Chapter 368. Burdened World. The day soon arrived. Approximately 2 days later in the early morning, Subai and several other selected outer sect disciples entered the inner affairs hall together. Some of these were responsible for managing waste, while others handled water purification. In short, outer sect disciples did the most arduous work while enjoying the least resources. Upon entering, the hall was bustling with inner sect disciples, and naturally, no one looked up to Subai and the others, who were considered low-tier outer sect disciples. The second elder in charge of this matter said, "Recently, there have been many affairs at the mountain gate, and some disciples have strayed from the right path, choosing to engage in dubious activities. Those who fled, such as the ones from Huodo Peak, Fengyunya, Shangzai, and Quangma, have been sneaky and dishonest, leading to significant asset losses for the sect, and they have already been expelled. In the future, if they meet on the high-dimensional road, disciples are free to take action without forgetting the bond of brotherhood. Of course, I hope others can take this as a warning." The second elder then announced the new first and second disciples, and mentioned that apart from what needs to be submitted, everyone can keep some of the medicinal herbs they collect. This shows the sect's generosity and that it will not hinder anyone's ambition. One must not emulate those few failures. Of course. However, Subai was not interested in listening to any of this. Those people hadn't truly escaped. They had all been dealt with by Subai. Moreover, these elders and inner disciples had benefited from their demise. Didn't they notice? He couldn't help but feel amused. They had rambled on for nearly an hour, just like school leaders at a meeting, with no substantial talk, only a lot of nonsense, which was quite nauseating. After the meeting ended, everyone finally set off. As Subai expected, the second elder opened the back mountain gate, and everyone entered the void realm. Fortunately, Subai had already retrieved the facilities and troops here in advance. Otherwise, it would have been exposed. Soon, Subai reached a place he had never set foot in before. In the void realm, time seemed to be torn apart. As Subai moved with the group, each step felt like treading on the cracks of time. One moment it was the faint light of dawn, and the next it was the deepening dusk. The figures of the inner disciples ahead shifted in and out of focus, like points of light floating in the river of time, with only the winding line of disciples beneath their feet proving they were still progressing. After about an hour, it felt as if they had passed 100 years, seemingly arriving at a critical point. The second elder signaled everyone to stop. All the disciples listened attentively. The second elder pointed at a deep black light, his voice low and solemn. This is the starting point of the world of causality, the end of all things. On its opposite side lies the cause of causality, the reverse of all existence. The laws there are inverted from this world. Spiritual herbs grow from decay, and truth is hidden in chaos. It is precisely because Mount Sumeru suppresses this point that we can leverage its nurturing power to stand against the supreme deity. He scanned the crowd, his gaze sharp. This medicinal herb gathering is a matter of life and death. However, if you can bring back a reverse spirit herb, the sect will be generous in its rewards. Of course, if you feel your strength is insufficient, or if you are an outer disciple, you can also move a little behind the starting point, where it is relatively safe. I will personally oversee things. After a bit more rambling, the second elder finally said, "Open." The second elder formed a seal with both hands, and a golden light burst forth from his palms, striking directly at the center of the dark light. In an instant, the chaotic, swirling energy was forcibly neutralized, revealing a twisted passage. "Charge!" Someone shouted, and the inner disciples rushed in one after another. Subai squinted, watching them pounce on the distorted spiritual herbs like hungry wolves, a cold smile curling at the corners of his mouth. The outer disciple at the back was fuming, especially Wu Fan, who was responsible for managing the waste system and irrigation. "Damn it, we're last. By the time we get in, all the best herbs will be gone." He was frustrated. They really leave no room for us outer disciples. Another outer disciple responsible for cleaning chimed in. "What if we run into a fierce beast right after entering? Do we have enough supplies to deal with it?" There were benefits to being behind. At least the previous group had cleared the way for them. Similarly, Subai wasn't in a hurry. Let them dig at the entrance first. He would go in deeper later. Once he summoned the Red Alert Army, no one would be faster at collecting the herbs than him. The crowd moved forward in a mighty wave, and soon everyone entered this world. The moment they stepped into the passage, the world flipped abruptly. The sky was a blinding white, while the ground was a thick black. All the scenery appeared in an eerie negative hue. Broken steel and concrete skeletons jutted into the sky, and fragments of glass walls floated in midair, resembling a paused doomsday scene. On a distant, distorted billboard, faded text hung upside down, as if silently mocking the intruders. "It looks like an overexposed blue planet," Subai murmured. However, the others felt nothing, as not everyone came from that world. Tens of thousands of disciples scattered like a tide, leaving no trace in their wake. Spiritual herbs and weeds were uprooted, and the ground was turned upside down. In the blink of an eye, this black and white world was filled with chaotic pits. Subai stood atop the highest point of a building, gazing into the distance. There was a sea of sand far away in this area. He should head in that direction. There would be better things inside. Just as Subai made up his mind, a man suddenly appeared behind him. "You've put me in this situation. Don't you have anything to say before I die?" The voice was familiar. It was the Hornet he had set up as a scapegoat. This guy hadn't run away but had the audacity to sneak in and discovered that Subai was the mastermind behind everything. It seemed he had gathered quite a bit of information. Subai slowly turned his face. "Before, I could frame you. Do you think I can't do it now?" "You dare to meet me face to face," Subai said coldly. The Hornet sneered. "I'm aware that you have means to manipulate people. But this time I'm daring to meet you face to face, and I'm not unprepared." Suddenly, he lifted his coat, revealing numerous electronic signal components. "As long as my brainwaves are disrupted, my close friends will immediately report your actions of killing so many people to the authorities. So what do you want?" "I want you to bring me the negative eye from across the sandy sea, and hand over all the fragments of the great path you have on you." "The negative eye?" "That's right. Don't ask too many questions, just follow my instructions to retrieve it. First, hand over all the fragments of the great path you have on you. You have no choice. If we expose this matter, you won't survive in the higher dimensional world. Subai smiled. Have you heard of the settling crossbow cannon? Chapter 369 EMP Paralysis. What you bring out cannot handle me. Vanfoam technology is trustworthy. The settling crossbow cannon? Are you saying you're preparing to exchange this with me? What level is this item anyway? If you bring out some junk, I'm not interested. Subai couldn't help but chuckle. This guy thinks the armored vehicles of the Vanfoam resistance are gifts for him. So he explained seriously, the settling crossbow cannon is a long-range artillery unit. Not only powerful in firepower, but also equipped with nanofiber piercing capabilities that can take out enemies in large numbers. The most important skill it has is EMP paralysis, which can incapacitate a target for 20 seconds. After hearing Subai's explanation, the Hornet felt that this item should be quite good. Otherwise, the other party wouldn't use it as a bargaining chip. So he nodded and said, is this the only one? Do you think that's enough for me? Subai shook his head. One is certainly not enough, so I prepared 100 for you. 100? Are you kidding? If these are indeed high-quality weapons, how could there be so many? Do you think this is a field where you just pull a bunch of vegetables? The Hornet didn't believe it at all and became even more vigilant. He warned Subai, don't play tricks on me. Show me first. If you dare to fool me, I'll expose this matter as well. At the same time, Subai was really amused. The other party was on the brink of danger and still didn't understand the situation. Truly adorably foolish. Don't worry, there won't be a single one less. Subai smiled slightly, raised his right hand, and the stone sea radiated dazzling light. In an instant, the entire floor was filled with the sound of metal clashing. A full 100 settling crossbow cannons appeared out of thin air, their dark barrels gleaming coldly, instantly filling the spacious floor to the brim. The Hornet's eyes widened, watching these war machines appear out of nowhere, cracking the concrete floor into a web of fractures. He even stopped breathing. You really? The Hornet trembled as he reached out to touch the nearest crossbow cannon. The cold metal sensation sent a shiver down his spine. He bent down to peer into the cannon, squinting as he looked inside, then knocked on the armor plate. This thing is so big, isn't it just a live target on the battlefield? He straightened up, suspiciously glaring at Subai. It can't be an antique from the era of interstellar warfare, right? Who still uses such a cumbersome thing nowadays? It would probably be blown to smithereens by the enemy's energy missiles as soon as it hits the battlefield. He gestured with his hand to mimic an explosion. Subai smiled without answering and snapped his fingers. Suddenly, all the cannon barrels lit up with a ghostly blue energy, striking the wasp without warning. The wasp was sent flying backward, crashing to the ground, completely paralyzed. The only part of its body that could move was its mouth, twisted in a grimace. You're asking for death. The news has already spread. The entire area will hunt you down. Even if you escape to the depths of the underworld, you will still be obliterated. Is that so? Are you sure your device is still functional? Subai pointed to the device strapped to him that detected brainwaves. The wasp glanced at it and was shocked to find it completely malfunctioning. What have you done? Subai couldn't be bothered to respond. After all, the paralysis would only last 20 seconds. Once that time was up, if the enemy connected their signal, his surprise attack would be in vain. Of course, he could keep bombarding the wasp, leaving it in a state of continuous paralysis. But this wasp held the names of his allies. They were all aware of his situation. If he didn't extract those names from its mouth, there was still a chance the news would leak. Therefore, the wasp couldn't die just yet. Yuriko. Subai summoned Yuriko from the stone sea. Master, it's been so long. Probably many days. I missed you so much. Subai swatted her rear. Enough chatter. Control him. Okay. Similarly, Yuriko, like Yuri, possessed the ability to control human minds. After studying, Subai realized Yuri used brainwaves while Yuriko relied on psychic abilities. Their wavebands were different. After all, the wasp had previously fallen for Yuri's brainwave intrusion. This time, it was likely on guard against it. So, Subai opted for Yuriko, who instantly took control of the wasp, which complied by removing its specially made outfit. Wasp, now tell me how many people you've spoken to about this matter. Under the Grand Elder, the third disciple, Iron Hand Judge Li Hanfeng. He is the chief of the Law Enforcement Hall, with an indestructible sword technique. Under the second elder, the sixth disciple, Faceless Immortal Lu Wuyan, known for unparalleled disguise skills. With his innate treasure, the Seven Veils. Under the guidance of the fourth elder, there are 8 disciples, including the Blood River Blade Master, who practices the Blood River Blade Classic, wielding his blade as if a river of blood is rolling back. Under the fifth elder, there are 9 disciples, including the Xian Yin Fairy, who possesses a cold moon physique and excels in using the Ice Soul Cold Light Sword, practicing the Harmony and Yang supplementation techniques. Additionally, there is the logistics team, led by the third manager, the Heavenly Sound Envoy, who uses a musical instrument to perform sound-based killing formations. These 5 individuals do not know each other and are unaware of each other's secrets. Subai stroked his chin, finding it interesting. It seemed these individuals were all targets he needed to eliminate. However, he couldn't alert them. If one of them escaped, he would truly have no place to hide. Even if he fled back to his own world, they would chase him to his home. Subai then asked, "Did these individuals come to the herbal gathering?" "Yes, they all came. After all, this is a once-in-a-thousand-years opportunity that no one would want to miss." "Now that's interesting," Subai smirked coldly. It was the perfect opportunity to use the herbal gathering to eliminate these individuals one by one. Thinking they could exchange his life for money was simply too naive. The Tiger Head B produced the communication coordinates and contact information of both parties. Among the logistics team, the third manager, the Heavenly Sound Envoy, is the lowest in rank. Starting with him should attract little attention. Activating the radar satellite, Subai quickly located his position. This guy was situated at the back, but the area was crowded and chaotic. An assassination would be necessary. If Subai acted directly, he would be instantly exposed. However, he still had the undead from the Death Clan stored in the Stone Sea, which had not been used for a long time. They were also affected by high-dimensional changes, and their strength wasn't far off. While they might not be able to contend with the disciples from the Shumi Mountain, creating some chaos shouldn't be a problem. With this thought, Subai retracted the Siege Dragon crossbow and moved towards the logistics area. Chapter 370. Blood Chi Pin. At the logistics area was bustling with activity, as dozens of outer disciples queued to submit the spiritual herbs they had collected. The Heavenly Sound Envoy, sitting behind a sandalwood desk, lightly played with an abacus. A warm smile on his face. 3 stalks of 7-leaf blood corpse, average quality. Would you prefer to exchange for 20 contribution points or 200 fragments of the Great Path? With a light tap of his fingertip, the jade slip on the desk automatically recorded the transaction. Just as the outer disciple was about to request the fragments of the Great Path, he suddenly noticed the envoy frowning. Wait a moment. This root has signs of insect damage and can only be counted as 15 points. The disciple's face turned pale. Senior brother Situ, this is clearly intact. Before he could finish speaking, a melody suddenly floated out from Situ's sleeve, causing the disciple to instantly lose focus and nod blankly. Yes, it's been eaten by insects. Through the observation of Natasha's sniper rifle, along with the words transmitted by nearby lurking spies, it became clear that Situ was using a musical secret technique to manipulate the minds of his disciples. In the hidden compartment of the table, the confiscated spiritual herbs had piled up into a small mountain. The most outrageous part was that a female disciple submitted moonlight grass, which was clearly rich in spiritual energy. But he forcibly classified it as withered and inferior, only granting her 5 contribution points. Next, Situ gently called, unconsciously stroking the strings of the zither. Subai noticed that each time Situ deducted spiritual herbs, a faint blood light flashed from the jade pendant at his waist, indicating that he was practicing some kind of dark art that required the essence of spiritual herbs. With a slight smile, Subai instantly summoned the Lich King. Now, let the disaster of the undead clear the field. As Subai unleashed his power, the entire logistics area was instantly shrouded in darkness. Countless gargoyles screeched out from the crevices of the valley, their wings stirring up a foul wind. The ground suddenly shook violently, and tens of thousands of giant burrowing demons broke through the earth, their sharp limbs slicing through unsuspecting disciples. Where did these monsters come from? This is the logistics area. It should have been cleaned up. How come there are so many monsters all of a sudden? And these creatures weren't even seen in the negative world. Form a formation. Everyone quickly. Situ slammed the table and stood up abruptly. Just as he grasped the zither, 3 plague-infused projectiles whistled in from a distance. The foul-smelling flesh exploded in midair, and dark green plague mist instantly enveloped the entire area. The infected disciple's skin began to rot, collapsing to the ground and convulsing into mindless undead. Situ's fingers flew, and the zither emitted piercing sound waves that shattered the incoming gargoyles into pieces. However, for every body that fell, 3 skeletons rose from the plague mist. He watched helplessly as the temporary defense formation was overwhelmed by a sea of skeletons. Some disciples, driven by greed, frantically stuffed spiritual herbs into their storage bags, only to be pierced through the chest by the claws of the burrowing demons. As the saying goes, people die for wealth, birds die for food. And it was proving true. In less than 5 minutes, the remaining people all fled. Situ wanted to escape too, but he soon realized that these suddenly appearing monsters were not pursuing anyone else, only surrounding him. It seemed they had come specifically for him. Damn it! What's going on with the inner sect disciples? How can there be so many monsters in the safest logistics area? I need to survive and return. I must report each of them. Just as the claws of a gargoyle were about to tear Situ apart, a hand suddenly yanked him away. Be careful, senior brother. A panting outer sect disciple stood in front of him. You are an outer sect disciple? Yes, follow me, there is a way out this way. Situ Xiao was half convinced, and, surrounded by the strange sea, saw no way out. Unfortunately, with life and death at stake, there was no time for careful consideration. To his surprise, following the outer sect disciple led to an actual escape route through the strange sea. C2 Shixiao, I want to ask you a question. Do you know Subai? Subai? Oh, you know this nobody? How do you know him? At this point, C2 Xiao suddenly sensed that there was more to the other person's words and shifted the topic. I think I've heard of him, but I don't remember. Why are you asking this? The young outer disciple revealed a smile. It's nothing, just that the Hornet asked me to deliver a message to you. You are his informant? Did you receive the money? C2 Xiao was taken aback. This was the only good news amidst all the bad news he had received. It meant that the fragments of the Tao had been secured. The other person nodded. Yes, Hornet said to meet and talk. Meet? Where? Suddenly, the young disciple turned around. The glint of a dagger flashed, and it stabbed fiercely into C2 Xiao's dantian. Hornet is waiting for you in the underworld. He sneered while twisting the knife handle, unleashing spiritual energy along the blade. By the way, my name is Subai. C2 Xiao couldn't believe it. The man before him was Subai, the target of Hornet's extortion. Since this person had found him, did it mean Hornet was dead? Severely wounded, C2 Xiao knelt down. He looked disheveled, but a smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. Well, with one less person to share the profits, that's also a good thing. What do you mean? Now hand over all your Tao fragments to me, and I 1T report you. Do you think you can escape with your current condition? Everyone has their tricks. And so do I. C2 Xiao suddenly pulled the pendant from his waist, and the blood-red jade pendant burst forth with dazzling red light. The large wound on his body healed at a visible speed, fresh flesh writhing to push the dagger out. Do you know what this is? He wiped away the blood at the corner of his mouth, proudly shaking the pendant. In these years, I've handled medicinal herbs worth not less than 100 billion. Each one has absorbed some of its medicinal power, and now it has stored who knows how much vitality to sustain me. The surface of the pendant was covered in dense vascular patterns, pulsating with each heartbeat. Enough for me to kill my way in and out of the strange sea. He grinned as he stepped back. And you? Whether you can survive in this strange sea is debatable. How about we make a deal? I'll take you out, and you hand over all your Tao fragments to me, and I 1T report you. Subai chuckled. Is there a possibility that these strange monsters in the sea were summoned by me? You? If you had that ability, how could you still be a disciple in the outer sect? Before he finished speaking, Subai suddenly snapped his fingers. All the undead kneel and submit to Subai. Let me kill him. I want to see just how much vitality he has. As for these monsters, C2 Xiao always thought they were mindless beasts, some bold, some timid, and they wouldn't coordinate their attacks. But the reality was completely different from what he had imagined. Hundreds of thousands of monsters were targeting him together. No matter how much vitality he had, he couldn't withstand it. Chapter 371. Next, Lung Yuechan, how is this possible? These vague monsters are following your commands, Subai. This is too unscientific. No, it should be said it's too mystical. C2 Xiao's eyes turned blood red as he frantically activated the vitality power from the pendant, transforming himself into a blood shadow that rushed toward the sky. No matter how many undead armies attacked him, he ignored them all. As long as he could escape, that was enough. After all, this was far beyond his expectations. Damage numbers kept appearing. The vitality pendant continuously nourished his life force. A miraculous scene unfolded. In this sea of monsters, the vitality pendant surprisingly sustained him. This guy was still alive. Just as he was about to break through the encirclement, the distant Lich King lightly tapped his bony finger, and a ghostly blue ice ring suddenly exploded. Frost Nova. A bone-chilling cold instantly froze half of C2 Xiao's body, causing him to plummet like a bird with broken wings. The sound of ice crystals spreading through his veins was clearly audible, and the red light from the pendant dimmed significantly. Ghouls began to gnaw at his body. Want to run? Can you escape? Subai didn't believe he could. Yet, this guy still had a card up his sleeve. Ninth Heaven Break. C2 Xiao used his last bit of strength to pluck the strings, unleashing 7 sound blades in a fan shape, clearing a 100-meter path through the sea of skeletons. Subai, you can't keep me here. You should be the one running. I'm going to report to the elders right now. You're doomed. He dragged his frozen left leg and managed to take 3 steps before the ground suddenly collapsed beneath him. Thud. 2 giant pincers glowing with purple light burst from the ground, accurately clamping around his waist. The burrowing lord's savage mouthparts emerged from the earth, and as its jagged fangs opened and closed, C2 Xiao's lower body was completely severed from his upper body. No, it's impossible. He coughed up blood as he looked at his fallen lower half. Such a severe injury, with his upper body completely separated from his lower half. Even with the crying blood pendant protecting his life, without legs, C2 Xiao couldn't escape. Subai stepped onto the shoulder guard of a skeleton soldier as the undead automatically parted to make way. C2 Xiao pointed at him with trembling fingers. Spare me. It was all the idea of the tiger head hornet. I had nothing to do with it. I don't know anything. You know too much. After Subai finished speaking, The claws of the dungeon lord closed again. Accompanied by the sickening sound of bones cracking, this 34th celestial musician, who had embezzled countless disciples' medicinal herbs, ultimately became nourishment for the undead, just like the materials he had misappropriated. Get his butt back, Subai ordered. Soon, the butt of Situ Xiao was retrieved. Subai took off the pendant from his waist. Playing with the blood-colored pendant, it felt warm and alive. As his consciousness probed inside, he discovered it was a miniature blood pool, containing the essence of a millennium's worth of medicinal herbs and the blood of cultivators. It could instantly heal severe injuries. As long as the head and heart remained intact, the wearer could be considered immortal. Congratulations. You have obtained high-dimensional blood pendant after acquiring this item. Subai intended to leave the scene immediately to avoid being seen. He still had more to handle. Just as he was about to leave, he noticed Situ Xiao's Guzheng. It could launch sound wave attacks and might still be useful, so he casually picked it up and left the place. Naturally, all the precious medicinal materials here were also collected by Subai into his spatial storage. These were all valuable items. Once the team had evacuated, Subai went to find his next target, which was the 9th disciple of the 5th elder, the 34th Xianin fairy, Lung Yuechan. According to radar scans and descriptions from the Hornet, this Lung Yuechan seemed to be a woman of questionable morals. As expected, she was indeed as Subai had thought. In a ruined area, this woman was with the 5th elder's 3rd disciple, the two of them leaning against each other. Lung Yuechan's fingertips traced around the 3rd brother's clothing, her eyes sparkling. Brother, that 9 nether dark orchid is wasted in your hands. It would be better if you let it stay here. If you could lend it to me for a while, tonight, you can have whatever you want. The 3rd brother's throat bobbed as he suddenly grasped her wrist tightly. Are you serious? Lung Yuechan chuckled lightly, her breath fragrant. Or we could practice yin and yang together. This divine medicine is inherently cold and dark. If we refine it using dual cultivation methods, your Yin Yang technique and my I Soul technique could break through to the transformation God stage in no time. She leaned in closer, her red lips brushing against his ear. Don't you want to taste the ultimate pleasure? The 3rd brother's breathing quickened, unable to hold back anymore, and roughly tore open her clothing. Just as Lung Yuechan giggled and fell into his arms, a cold voice suddenly echoed. What a performance. Subai stepped out of the shadows, playing with the blood jade pendant, his gaze sweeping over the two entangled figures. Looks like I arrived at the wrong time? Subai's sudden appearance startled the two, and they hurriedly put their clothes back on. The 3rd brother was furious, feeling that this great opportunity had been ruined by this unknown young man who had appeared out of nowhere. He was livid. A belly full of resentment had no place to vent. Looking at your outfit, you seem like an outer sect disciple. You worthless thing, get lost. I'll count to 3. Otherwise, your head will be relocating. As he spoke, the 3rd senior brother had already drawn his sword from his waist, the cold gleam of the blade pointing at Subai. Wait, you can continue. I promise I won't act until I've finished watching. Subai chuckled. The 3rd senior brother was furious. The other party really didn't know when to stop. Their face was thicker than a city wall, able to utter such shameless words. Fine, you've chosen to seek death. Which outer sect disciple are you? After you die, I'll help you report a missing person. Me? I'm from the cooking class. Subai? The cooking class? So you're just a cook. You really don't know when to give up. The 3rd senior brother laughed in anger, not expecting the person who dared to show off would just be a cook. However, the cold moon cicada beside him suddenly jolted, looking at Subai in disbelief. She remembered that the tiger-headed bee had instructed her to report to the elder immediately if anything happened and to capture Subai. But now, the tiger-headed bee hadn't reported anything. How did Subai find his way here? A bad feeling surged in her heart. You wouldn't dare, right? No matter what. If he has come looking for trouble, getting rid of him is the right move. Don't waste your breath on him. He just saw me completely. 3rd senior brother. Take him down. All right, junior sister, don't worry, he won't survive. A sword energy slashed out, rushing towards Subai's face with overwhelming power. But in Subai's eyes, it was nothing to worry about. He didn't even need to mobilize his red alert forces to handle this move. Chapter 372. Refining medicinal materials. Subai lightly raised his right hand, and the Xianyuan sword glimmered with golden light. The sword energy clashed against the sword body, producing sparks. And the 3rd senior brother's full-powered strike didn't even leave a mark. This ancient sword. Subai squinted slightly. Do you recognize it? Of course. Back when I hadn't entered the high-dimensional continent, I searched for this divine artifact throughout the universe for thousands of years without any results. I didn't expect to find it in your hands now. Seeing the 3rd senior brother's excited expression, the cold moon cicada was puzzled. An ancient bronze sword seemed to come from an ordinary universe outside the high-dimensional continent. Why be so excited? The 3rd senior brother's eyes gleamed with light, greedily staring at the Xianyuan sword. Junior sister may not know, this sword is the supreme artifact of Universe 935, the key of the gods. even in the high-dimensional continent. It's a treasure that could spark a bloodbath. Hearing this, the cold moon cicada's pupils constricted. Her red lips slightly parted. Is it the one that can sever cause and effect, as legend has it? What they were discussing was something Su-bai had never heard of before. He only knew that this was passed down from the Yellow Emperor. It could be said to be the fortune of the rise of the human race, an invincible existence in the universe. He never expected such deep origins. Surprisingly, there were still people in the high-dimensional continent who knew about it. It seemed he had to carefully examine his Xianyuan sword now. At present, this sword contained the soul of the Yellow Emperor, but Su-bai was unable to awaken him. Who would have thought that a mere cook would possess such a divine artifact? I truly misjudged. My apologies. Lung Yuechan shouted loudly. Third senior brother, why waste more words? Killing for treasures is justifiable. Divine artifacts belong to the worthy, and my yin-yang technique can refine the energy within the artifact. It's beneficial for both of us. So stop the nonsense. Su-bai raised an eyebrow. He originally wanted to hear more from this third senior brother about the mysteries of the Xianyuan sword. However, with this woman present, it seemed unlikely. Hearing this, the third senior brother sneered, his spiritual power surging. Then let me show you the true Shumi sword chi. He formed seals with his hands, and 9 blazing suns appeared behind him. The violent sword energy carved deep chasms into the ground within a Tinjong radius. 9 crimson sword energies fell like falling stars, distorting the air with intense heat. However, Su-bai calmly retracted the Xianyuan sword and took out the Jiuxiao Huan Pei Qin belonging to Sidu Xiao, with a flick of his fingers on the strings. 7 invisible sound blades intercepted all the sword energy midair. Clang! With a piercing sound, the third senior brother suddenly let out a miserable scream. His right arm holding the sword was severed at the shoulder, the wound smooth as a mirror. The 9 sword energies that had been poised to attack immediately lost control, exploding around him and leaving his body mangled. How is this possible? Lung Yuechan screamed in shock. She clearly saw that Su-bai's earlier strike was the unique skill Jiuxiao puff from Sidu Xiao, but its power was over 10 times stronger than the original. How could this be? Su-bai put away the qin, smiling. This qin, it belongs to Sidu Xiao. How could it be in your hands? Sidu Xiao knew too much, which is why I killed him. Of course, I had to use his things to deal with you. This way, I can clear my name. Su-bai spoke frankly, not fearing that the other party could escape and spread the news. Could it be? Lung Yuechan covered her mouth. That's right, just like you. He was one of your good friends, an informant for the Wasp Gang. The severely injured third senior brother had no idea what had just happened. He was in excruciating pain and could only shout at Lung Yuechan. Quick, save me. If I bleed any more, I'll die? Stop your chatter. I can't understand a word. In her eyes, a glint of ruthlessness flashed by, but a look of concern appeared on her face. Senior brother, don't worry. I'll help you heal. She quickly stepped forward, her delicate hand gently caressing the wound of the third senior brother, her movements as gentle as water. Junior sister, quickly use your cold moon true energy. The third senior brother weakly grasped her wrist, but she suddenly leaned in closer, her red lips slightly parted. Senior brother, Yuechan wants to borrow something from you. What is it? Before the third senior brother could react, she suddenly formed a 3-inch ice needle at her fingertip and fiercely stabbed it into his heart meridian. This is a declaration of loyalty, she said sweetly, twisting the ice needle, and if you die, maybe I'll be safe. The third senior brother's eyes widened in disbelief as he looked at the frost spreading across his chest. Cold Moon Chan took the opportunity to push him to the ground. Turning to bow to Su-bai, senior brother Su, this person was disrespectful to you, and Yuechan has dealt with him. She raised her head, her eyes filled with a flattering charm. The tiger head did mention that matter to me. I promise not to speak of it. As she spoke, her clothing slightly slipped, revealing her snowy white shoulder. Oh, also, you witnessed me killing the third senior brother with your own eyes. Now I have dirty business in my hands, so you can rest assured. If something happens, I can't escape responsibility either. Besides, I practice the method of yin and yang harmony, nourishing yin and supplementing yang, with dual degrees. Is that so? I happen to have many medicinal materials here. If it's you, how should we refine them together to enhance our realms? Su-bai casually took out some of the potent medicinal materials from his space. The quantity was shocking to Cold Moon Chan. Yes, indeed, she said, taking out a huge water vat from her space and igniting it with yin fire. As long as we put the medicinal materials in the water and jump in, we can refine them together. The specific process is omitted. Su-bai stroked his chin. So that's how it is. The refined medicinal materials will form fragments of the great path of the positive world, enhancing one's dimension. Senior brother, the water temperature is just right. After 5 hours, we refine nearly 100 million fragments of the great path. Well, these are all for you, senior brother. I don't want them. Cold Moon Chan knelt behind Su-bai, her delicate fingers gently rubbing his shoulders, her voice sweet. Is senior brother comfortable? Yuechan has even more special massage techniques. Suddenly, Subai pulled Cold Moon Chan into his embrace, his right hand flipping to take out the nine heavens ringing chain. Cold Moon Chan's delicate body trembled slightly, a glint of surprise flashing in her eyes. Is senior brother going to teach Yuechan to play the chain? You guess. Subai's lips curled into a playful smile as his fingertips lightly plucked the strings of the chain. Zheng. Before Cold Moon Chan could react, 7 sound blades had already pierced through her delicate body. She widened her beautiful eyes, incredulously staring at the blood blooming on her chest. You taught me a lesson. Subai released her gradually cold body, and Lung Yuechan collapsed to the ground, her clothes stained with blood. Until her death, she could not understand why. Despite having offered her loyalty, it still ended like this. Subai put away the guqin and looked at the fragments of the avenue scattered on the ground, sneering. If I hadn't closely observed that you didn't use ice spikes to kill your master, but rather used the mystical sound generated by a weapon to do so, I might have really been deceived by you. Chapter 373. The spy appears, stirring discord, and so. Lung Yuechan met her end at Subai's hands, her corpse left unburied. After all, the wounds were inflicted by the guqin of Sidu Shao. If it were ever discovered, it wouldn't have anything to do with him. The next opponent he needed to deal with was the 8th disciple under the 4th elder, the Blood River Blade Sovereign, Xiao Tiansha. Practicing the Blood River Blade Classic, his blade struck like a river of blood. According to the description from the Hornet, this guy hadn't followed the main group to gather herbs, but had instead gone to a blood spring in this negative world to enhance his skills. Without hesitation, Subai set off immediately. After traveling several thousand miles, a red suddenly appeared on the radar. After scanning with a spy satellite, Subai discovered that this was the next target he needed to take action against. The 6th disciple under the 2nd elder, thousand-faced fairy Lu Wuyan, renowned for her disguise techniques, wielded the magical artifact 7 Haze Silk. She was ahead of him, observing the path, which was almost identical to where he was headed. Thus, Subai adjusted his breathing and followed behind. After about half an hour, he arrived at a mountainous area. This terrain appeared as if splashed with ink, with countless black springs spewing thick, negative-colored mud. In the center, the Longyuan glimmered with a glossy sheen, its surface floating with a colorful membrane, yet exuding an eerie feeling that made one's heart race. The twisted dead trees reflected on the oily surface, resembling countless struggling arms. Strangely, the primary colors of the negative world were supposed to be black and white, akin to memorial photographs. These oily membranes could reflect light, much like overexposed photos. Lu Wuyan, did you bring the items? In the middle of the spring, a figure stood up, its body stained black with oil. Xiao Tiansha sneered. What are you so anxious for? It's not easy for someone to steal ancient books from the scripture pavilion. Can't you show a bit of tenderness? Lu Wuyan lightly twisted her waist, the 7 Haze silk swirling around her like flowing clouds. Her eyes sparkled, her red lips slightly parted, and a charming blush appeared on her cheeks, every gesture exuding countless charms. Xiao Tiansha coldly laughed, ink marks. What with a big man pretending to be a woman? His fingertips brushed across the dragon abyss, and a colorful light membrane rippled. Lu Wuyan took out an ancient scroll, which recorded that this place was an ancient secret realm. It required the Blood River Sword technique to activate the spring, observe the flow of the mud, and find the overlapping reflection of the withered tree to uncover the treasures buried underground. Treasure hunting? It seemed these two were quite interesting. Not only did they hold my secret, but they also conspired to explore this secret realm together. Subai couldn't help but find it amusing. These two should be friendly on the surface, but distant at heart. Otherwise, with a little investigation, their secrets would have been exposed long ago. Since that was the case, Subai thought of a clever way to deal with them. With a hum, the blood blade of revenge swept across, and the blood-colored afterimage splashed like ink, instantly tearing through the colorful light membrane. The thick mud collapsed, revealing a deep crevice, and a decayed aura surged forth, accompanied by whispers. Lu Wuyan's 7 Xiaohua tightened, her voice carrying a smile. Oh dear, now someone's skirt is going to get dirty. Countless bubbles floated up, amidst the afterimages of the blade. Xiao Tiansha found a bubble that could be attracted by his blood river. In an instant, the bubble expanded and opened, forming a small universe of a negative world. All right, according to the ancient records, it has been opened. Now it's your turn to go in, Lu Wuyan. Me? How can you let a girl go to such a dangerous place? Brother Blade, you go. I'll help you keep the world open from outside, so that no one closes the secret realm and traps us. Stop being so nauseating. Your strength is greater than mine. It's more suitable for you to go inside. After some argument, they decided on a fair method. One person would go in first to retrieve something, and then the other would go in to get the next item. Although this was a bit troublesome, it could at least ensure fairness. Moreover, to guarantee that the first person wouldn't take everything, they would have to entrust their fate to the second person. The fate was a person's destiny. Destroying it would mean that person would lose half their strength. To restore it, a vast amount of Dao fragments would be needed. Of course, The first person would have priority in choosing. After all, they needed to explore inside. Su Bai, hidden in the shadows, silently nodded. These two had indeed thought it through. The first person might take risks, so they could choose the best items first. But the fate would be entrusted to the second person for safekeeping. The second person would then hand over the fate to the gatekeeper. This could be seen as a way to ensure balance between both parties. Seeing this, Su Bai couldn't help but smile. He waved his hand, summoning a spy. In an instant, the figure transformed into that of Lu Wuyan, equally delicate and charming, yet with an Adam's apple, clearly a man. Commander, follow my orders. Understood. Lu Wuyan swiftly waved the kick ceiling and leaped into the bubble's secret realm. Qiu Tiansha sat cross-legged by the dragon abyss, blood knife resting on his knee, vigilantly scanning the surroundings. Good. Seeing this scene, Su Bai was very pleased. A skeleton archer was summoned from the stone sea, under Su Bai's command. It moved 5 kilometers to the left. Soon, the position was set. It aimed and prepared to shoot. The skeleton archer activated the flame arrow. The arrowhead blazed with magical flames as it shot towards Qiu Tiansha at Dragon Abyss. The fiery arrow sliced through the air, targeting the back of the opponent's head. However, it seemed as though the opponent had eyes in the back of his head. Qiu Tiansha suddenly drew his blood knife. The clash of metal rang out, sparks flying. As the arrow was split in two, he swiftly turned around, a cold glint in his eyes, and pursued like a ghost, instantly locking onto the skeleton archer's position. Looking for death, the blood river knife technique unfolded, a torrent of crimson blade shadows cascading down. The skeleton archer had no time to react before being shredded by the violent blade energy, and the ground within a Tinjong radius was carved with crisscrossing ravines. Why are there still wild monsters here? Didn't Lu Wuyan clear everything before coming? Qiu Tiansha felt a surge of curiosity. Perhaps he had missed something. Returning to the original spot, he soon saw Lu Wuyan emerging from the instance, seemingly holding several items. Could it be treasures obtained from within? So soon? Was it dangerous inside? Didn't we agree to each take one? Why did you take so many? Is it because it was too dangerous in there? And you hurriedly grabbed everything you could, and then we'll redistribute? Chapter 374. The crane and the clam compete. Su Bai benefits. There are quite a few items. But unfortunately, I don't want to share. The spy disguised as Lu Wuyan said coldly. How can you do this? So untrustworthy. We agreed on this. Qiu Tiansha's expression was very agitated and dissatisfied. Also, let me tell you, I took all the treasures in the secret realm. I didn't leave you a single one. Now hurry up and get lost. A good dog doesn't block the way. The spy replied coldly, showing no signs of being an emotionless killer. You. Aren't you afraid I'll destroy your fate? Saying this, Qiu Tiansha produced a faint fate in his hand, hovering in his palm. The spy sneered. You dare. If you crush my fate, you will also die without a burial place. Even if my strength drops to 50% by then. Stop putting on airs in front of me and get lost. The spy's constant provocations and verbal insults kept testing Qiu Tiansha's limits. After all, Qiu Tiansha knew full well that with his current strength, he couldn't defeat his opponent. But crushing the other's fate? That he could certainly do. However, that would create a new problem. If word got out, the entire sect would surely punish him. The concept of fate is only useful when held in one's hands. Once used, it would ultimately lead to mutual destruction. Everyone is just seeking profit. There's no need for a life or death struggle. What? Not a single word to say. If you're incapable, then get lost. Holding it in must be agonizing. A lowly mongrel like you thinks you can share resources with me? Why don't you take a look at yourself in the mirror? What level are you even at? The spy was clearly specialized in psychology, particularly those from allied forces. Well-versed in psychological tactics from certain agencies, they could manipulate others without lifting a finger, much like a teacher reprimanding a student who forgot their homework. The opponent's face turned as red as a crab, yet they dared not utter a single sound. They couldn't even muster futile rage, only stewing in silent fury. Seeing the other party remain motionless, the spy deliberately moved closer, bumping squarely into Qiu Tiansha before striding away confidently. Su Bai smirked. This guy really was a coward. His swordsmanship seemed so fierce, yet he turned out to be all bark and no bite. Qiu Tiansha sat fuming on a bluestone. His fists clenched so tightly his knuckles cracked. Suddenly, thud, a pebble struck him square on the forehead. Oh my, Brother Dao, why are you spacing out here? The real Lu Wuyan emerged gracefully from the secret realm, twirling a crimson crystal between her fingers. It's time to return what belongs to me, my fate. She smiled brightly, completely unaware of what had just transpired. Qiu Tiansha's eyes burned crimson, veins bulging on his forehead. You wretch, you've looted all the treasures from the secret realm, insulted me, and now you have the nerve to demand your fate back? He abruptly tightened his grip around the glowing orb in his palm. Do you really think I'm made of clay? His fingers suddenly clenched, bang. Lu Wuyan's smile froze, the colorful silk around her instantly dimming. Staggering. She clutched her chest, crimson seeping through her fingers. You, madman! Blood abruptly gushed from her 7 orifices, and she collapsed into the mud like a severed puppet. As the dark spring churned, Cho Tiansha stared maniacally at the scattered fragments of fate in his palm and laughed wildly. A soft target? I'll show you what I'm made of. The mud swallowed Lu Wuyan's last flicker of consciousness. Until her dying breath, she never understood how this brute, whom she had once toyed with, dared to strike. She had admired his robust physique, never expecting him to be so unreasonable. Blood mingled with the dark spring-'s surge. As if mocking her misjudgment, Cho Tiansha grinned as he drew out the blood river knife, its blade shimmering with a scarlet light. Since it has come to this. Before he could finish his sentence, an unexpected change occurred. Suddenly, 7 rays of light burst forth from the mud, and the seemingly lifeless Lu Wuyan erupted into action. The 7 rays of silk entwined around Cho Tiansha's neck like poisonous snakes, and a blood-colored crystal exploded on his chest. Pooh! He spat out a mouthful of fresh blood and staggered back. You fool, don't think that just because I've lost half of my essence, you can easily manipulate me. Lu Wuyan's face twisted in pain, blood still seeping from her 7 orifices, yet she revealed a sinister smile. A poisoned dagger slid from her sleeve and viciously pierced Cho Tiansha's dantian. The blood river knife clattered to the ground, and Cho Tiansha knelt in the mud. He stared in disbelief at the poisoned dagger in front of him, realizing that the man he thought he had crushed was still holding a trump card. From the shadows of the trees came the sound of crisp applause as Subai stepped out, hands behind his back, his eyes filled with mockery. Wonderful. One crushed the essence yet still faked death, and the other had a disastrous start. Your performances are far more entertaining than any TV drama. Who are you? Lu Wuyan analyzed Subai's strength. The opponent was hiding in the shadows, waiting for both her and Cho Tiansha to mutually destroy each other before revealing himself. It was a classic case of the clam and the heron. Could she take him out in one move? Or should she test his strength first? Subai, however, didn't he think much of it and replied directly, I'm an outer disciple from the cooking team. The cooking team? Lu Wuyan's eyes widened in disbelief, her lips forming an A-shape. It was clear she couldn't believe it. How could an outer disciple from the cooking team dare to get involved in something like this? Why would he reveal himself? Didn't he know that such a big issue was beyond his capabilities? Junior brother, quickly carry me back to Heal. The treasures in the secret realm, let us split them half and half. Lu Wuyan struggled to prop herself up, her soaked gauze clinging to her alluring curves. Her chest heaving dramatically with each breath. She extended her blood-stained jade hand towards Subai, her slender waist swaying like a willow branch. Junior brother. I'm too injured to stand. Subai couldn't help but chuckle. The previous Cold Moon Cicada had already used this tactic. Now she was trying it again. Not a chance, you dead monster. A big man pretending to be a woman. Just tell me what treasures are in the secret realm. Lu Wuyan's expression darkened immediately. The depths of that secret realm are a twisted bubble world, each bubble sealing a tainted memory. She wiped the blood from the corner of her mouth, her voice trembling. At the very center, there is a massive black thought, a conglomerate of ancient grievances. Trying to go in alone to seek treasures is unrealistic. As she spoke, she shot a fierce glare at the unconscious Cho Tiansha. I was planning to use his blood river knife to lure that monster away. But who knew this fool's mind was filled with filthy thoughts? The mud suddenly surged violently, and Cho Tiansha struggled to move a couple of times. It seemed he was not completely dead. Subai stroked his chin, contemplating for a moment. He casually took out a healing pendant and restored some health to Cho Tiansha. A bigger plan began to take shape in his mind. Chapter 375. The Demolition Genius. SEAL Team Cho Tiansha was revived by Subai's pendant, regaining about 14 health points. Even with the two of them working together, Subai could handle it with ease. Lu Wuyan's eyes glinted with cold light. He was acutely aware of his current predicament. The sudden appearance of this cooking team must have an ulterior motive. Perhaps they wanted him to take risks to seize treasure for them. Moreover, they had just revived Cho Tiansha, who had nearly killed him, clearly adding another enemy. Thinking of this, Lu Wuyan's expression turned spring-like. Great, Achio. I'm so glad you're okay. I was worried sick about you. Shut up, you freak. You almost killed me just now. Luckily, I have my breathing technique to keep me alive, and this gentleman saved me. Cho Tiansha retorted. Now that he saw his situation was unfavorable, he refused to play along with Lu Wuyan's act. Cho Tiansha understood the current situation. The cooking team was trying to benefit from their conflict. But so what? He had nearly been killed by Lu Wuyan moments ago. At least the other party had saved him, clearly intending to increase their combat power to suppress Lu Wuyan. In any case, if the cooking team was trying to benefit, then he too had been saved and could take advantage of the situation. Of course, Cho Tiansha was not foolish enough to trust the one who saved him. If the opportunity arose, while he and Lu Wuyan were fighting fiercely, he would take the spoils for himself. As for the relationship among the three, Lu Wuyan's primary target was undoubtedly Qiu Tiansha, since they were mortal enemies. As for the cooking team, there was no deep-seated grudge, merely a matter of profit distribution. Qiu Tiansha contemplated that if Su Bai were taken down by Lu Wuyan, he could then eliminate Lu Wuyan, achieving perfection. As for Su Bai, he was indifferent, as his focus was on his next plan. Since we all understand, I won't say much more. Miss Lu, please lead the way, Su Bai gestured politely. All right, but I hope Ah Qiu walks beside me. So I won't be scared of him attacking me from behind, Lu Wuyan replied. Sure, Qiu Tiansha said without further ado, walking alongside Lu Wuyan. After all, he was the weakest and posed the least threat among the three. If things turned violent, he certainly wouldn't be the primary target. The three entered the secret realm, and before them unfolded a distorted mirror world. Countless shattered mirror shards hovered in midair. Each piece reflected the head of the same stunning woman. Her dark hair flowing like a waterfall, red lips slightly parted, but as the mirrors turned, a decayed face appeared at the back of her head. With every touch of a mirror, a bubble would emerge, containing a difficult opponent. The last time I entered, I barely managed to defeat one and earned 500 fragments. I intended to take a break before continuing, but then a gigantic head appeared in the mirror. It was so large that only her eyes could fit inside the mirror. Lu Wuyan began to explain the situation inside. Oh, is it really that hard to fight? Su Bai replied. Are you trying to get me killed? Right now? I only have half my strength. Struggling against an ordinary head could leave me severely injured. It's fine, I'll help you recover, Su Bai said, waving a blood-red necklace in front of him. This time, Lu Wuyan's pupils suddenly contracted as he stared intently at the pendant, which was clearly the life-bound artifact of Situ Shao. His voice changed pitch. This is senior brother Situ's. A terrifying thought struck him. Could it be that everything was being manipulated by Situ Shao from behind? Su Bai wouldn't give him time to process the shock and forced Lu Wuyan to touch the mirror. The moment Lu Wuyan's fingertip made contact with the surface, the entire mirror suddenly warped violently, and a huge bubble bulged out. With a crisp pop, the bubble burst, and the stunning woman's head shot out, her dark hair coiling around Lu Wuyan's neck like a venomous snake. Kicksealing, Lu Wuyan hurriedly summoned his lifebound treasure, which intertwined with the vibrant rays of color against the sea of dark hair. The decayed face behind the head suddenly opened a gaping maw, spewing forth a foul black mist. Lu Wuyan was caught off guard, and his left shoulder was corroded down to the bone. After a fierce struggle lasting a quarter of an hour, Lu Wuyan finally used kicksealing to crush the head. He collapsed onto the ground, a deep wound bleeding profusely across his chest, and his once splendid attire was reduced to rags. The head transformed into 500 fragments, floating in the air, but he lacked the strength to collect them. You have obtained 500 fragments. Su Bai absorbed the fragments into his body and gave Lu Wuyan a boost. Looking at the many mirrors, he couldn't help but smile. The mirrors here seemed endless. So many of them. It looked like it would be quite profitable. However, there was a troublesome aspect. Fighting would be a bit difficult due to the sheer number. If he sent his forces to battle, it would undoubtedly attract the attention of the entire sect. So he thought of a better strategy. As Su Bai was lost in thought, Qiu Tiansha quietly moved to Lu Wuyan's side and whispered. His gaze is sinister as he glances at Su Bai. This kid's strength far exceeds expectations. How about we temporarily join forces? Lu Wuyan coughed up a mouthful of blood, a fierce look flashing in her eyes. That's fine, but after it's done, I want that pendant. Qiu Tiansha gritted his teeth and nodded deal. The two exchanged a secret glance and tightened their grips on their weapons. After all, they realized the situation. If two weaklings didn't join forces, they would be at the mercy of others. The two stealthily approached Su Bai, preparing for a sudden ambush. Just then, Su Bai had already summoned his troops. 10,000 elite forces flooded into the secret realm space. All present, Su Bai commanded, and the thousands of troops saluted in unison. Qiu Tiansha and Lu Wuyan's ambush actions froze instantly, staring in shock at the suddenly appeared army. Target all reflective surfaces for destruction. As Su Bai's voice fell, all the troops split into small groups and began installing C4 explosives. In an instant, a series of explosions echoed through the secret realm. Countless reflective surfaces shattered before any heads could appear, turned to dust by the shockwaves of the C4. As the explosions continued, the remaining reflective surfaces began to tremble violently. The heads trapped in the compressed space collided madly against the mirrors, their decayed faces emitting piercing shrieks. The beautiful heads in the mirrors twisted and deformed. And in the last few mirrors, dozens of heads were crammed together like a tower. Dark hair and rotting flesh intertwined, creating spiderweb-like cracks in the surfaces. The entire secret realm reverberated with the chilling sound of bones scraping. Chapter 376. Why didn't your bombs detonate on time? Qiu Tiansha and Lu Wuyan were left dumbfounded. Dude, where are you from? You can blow things up like this? In the end, only one mirror remained. Su Bai instructed the elite forces to stop their actions and turned his gaze toward the two. Now, it was time for them to help. Before the two could understand the situation, a maniacal Evan laughed heartily as he patted their shoulders. Happy birthday, Xiao Tiansha. Lu Wuyan. Big brother. You're so strong. Do you really need us to help deal with these monsters? Of course, we'll definitely help you. Don't worry, the two assured him. Having witnessed the demolition capabilities of the elite forces, they temporarily abandoned their rebellious thoughts. Who said anything about fighting monsters? Su Bai feigned confusion. What I mean is, you two should go bring the third disciple of the Grand Elder, the iron-handed Judge Li Hanfeng, over. Then we can settle this matter. Xiao Tiansha. Lu Wuyan. Li Hanfeng is the last person that Su Bai wants to eliminate. His death will definitely shake the entire sect and might even cause a massive upheaval. Therefore, it must seem like an accident, unclear and ambiguous. Ideally, he should be killed by those monsters, allowing Su Bai to continue living freely here, evolving dimensions. Do you have a grudge against Senior Brotherly? Sort of, Su Bai admitted without hiding it. No, we can't do that. Senior Brotherly is in charge of the main formation. Aside from the elders who are dealing with the external world, everything here is coordinated by him. How could he listen to us? Su Bai shrugged. Then you'll have to figure it out yourselves. We? Why make it difficult for us? This isn't something I should be concerned about. Su Bai glanced at his watch. The bombs I just planted on you will probably explode in about 10 minutes. Time waits for no one. Xiao Tiansha and Lu Wuyan were taken aback. What? Don't believe it? The two shook their heads vigorously. Who would dare gamble with their lives? They had just witnessed the mirrors being instantly shattered. It was a lethal level of destruction. All right, let's do it. Su Bai smiled. Then let's wait for good news. Xiao and Lu exited the secret realm, and Xiao Tiansha lowered his voice. Report to the higher-ups? Of course, we need to report, Lu Wuyan replied, touching her heart. But first, let Senior Brotherly use the iron hand cutting technique to remove the conceptual bomb. Can he detect it? His judge's pen can sever causal lines. Lu Wuyan's fingertips glimmered with starlight, and a countdown appeared beneath her skin. 7 minutes and 30 seconds remaining. Xiao Tiansha gritted his teeth and tore open his shirt, revealing semi-transparent red explosives embedded in his chest along with a fuse. This madman planted the bomb on the timeline. That's why we must find Li Hanfeng. Lu Wuyan grabbed her companion. Anyway, this guy won't dare to follow us. Without any spies, we can say whatever we want. Right? As long as we don't stay with this suddenly appeared madman. For a moment, the two seemed to reconcile. Their camaraderie rekindled. After all, they were in this together. Sharing life and death. In the gray-white valley, the steep cliffs resembled yellowed, old photographs. A half-severed bloody intestine hung from a dead tree, and the ground was smeared with dried black blood clots. Dozens of corpses lay scattered about, some with heads stuck in crevices, others with thigh bones embedded in the muddy stream. Li Hanfeng used his iron hand to turn over the bodies, his fingers covered in dark blood. He kicked aside a shattered medicine basket, and a few blood-stained herbal leaves floated out. The logistics supplies have all vanished, and the claw marks on the corpses clearly indicate that someone deliberately lured the beasts to attack. Could there be a mole? Li Hanfeng rubbed his forehead in frustration. Damn it, who was causing all this trouble for him? Before long, his disciples came to report. Senior brother. We found the bodies of Sister Leng Yue and the third senior brother of Elder Wu. The two bodies were brought up. The severed edges showed wave patterns. Li Hanfeng recognized at a glance that this was the work of Situ Xiao. Could it be that Situ Xiao embezzled the supplies, lured the beasts out, and killed the disciples to make his escape, and then encountered Leng Yue Chan, having to kill to silence her? No, why would he need to do that? Moreover, if he wanted to escape, where would he go? What was his escape route? In an instant, another person came to his mind. That was the fleeing hornet. This guy promised him a hefty sum, saying it would be delivered this afternoon. Could it be that the hornet was trying to deceive him, secretly having Situ Xiao steal all the supplies and take him along in the escape? Were they planning to defect to a higher power? The more Li Hanfeng thought about it, the more plausible it seemed. At that moment, two figures flew in from the distance. Senior Brotherly, come help us. Qiu Lu and another person rushed over. We have bombs strapped to us. Please, you must disable them. What exactly happened? Tell me everything. Someone claiming to be from the cooking team discovered a secret realm in the volcanic marshes. He strapped 2 bombs to us, saying they'd only be disarmed if you came over. The cooking team? Could it be Su Bai, as the Hornet mentioned? The Hornet hadn't provided specific information to others, but had hinted to Li Hanfeng that Su Bai was problematic. They planned to extort him and then eliminate him. Now, Su Bai had appeared again. It must be the same person. So, was it Su Bai who wanted to kill to cover up the truth, luring these two to bring him over to take the chance to eliminate him? Another possibility formed in Li Hanfeng's mind. If it was Su Bai, everything made sense. I got it. I'll help you two disable the bombs now. Li Hanfeng's iron hand glowed with a blue light as the pen tip of the judge's pen pierced Qiu Tiansha's chest. The semi-transparent fuse twisted beneath the skin, forming the shape of clock gears. He pinched the winding timer, which was embedded in the heart's timeline. Before he could finish speaking, Xiao Tianxia's eyes bulged. No, wait. Li Hanfeng's iron hand retreated violently, but he saw the fuse suddenly spinning counterclockwise at a frantic pace. Blue flames erupted from Xiao Tianxia's 7 orifices. And just as Li Hanfeng's palm touched the explosive wave, his entire iron arm was blown to smithereens. As the smoke cleared, he was left with a charred stump where his right arm used to be. Lu Wuyin was so shocked that she couldn't speak. The bomb had detonated unexpectedly. Did that mean she would die in the next moment? However, the timer had already expired, yet it had not exploded. Junior sister Lu, explain what's going on. Li Hanfeng said coldly, his eyes filled with murderous intent. Chapter 377. Time-Space Madness. Li Hanfeng's severed limb regenerated. I don't know what's happening either. We really didn't intend to blow you up. You said you had a bomb on you, right? Why didn't it go off? Instead, the bomb on him exploded? Li Hanfeng's eyes showed immense killing intent. Lu Wuyin couldn't provide an explanation either. It was the cooking team's doing. I truly don't know what is going on. I swear to the heavens. Li Hanfeng, respected and in charge here, was trusted by the elders. Even though these two had attacked him, he couldn't just kill them on the spot. Doing so would tarnish his reputation in the sect and put him at a disadvantage against his senior disciples. In the end, he suppressed his killing intent. Fine, if you say it's not you and that you were forced, then since you don't have a bomb, you don't need my rescue. Take me to the one who coerced you. All the brothers saw this. If you were lying, I'd have to hand you over to the masters for punishment. Brothers, do you all agree? Li Hanfeng asked the disciples behind him, who had just been injured in the explosion. They were all on Li Hanfeng's side and naturally agreed. Regardless of whether someone had coerced Lu Wuyin, her fate would undoubtedly be worse than death. There was a demon-locking tower in the sect, and this person would definitely be sent there to suffer greatly. Meanwhile, Su Bai, observing everything through a spy satellite, couldn't help but smile. Just as he had anticipated, these two would not leave Li Hanfeng to him as promised. Therefore, he had preemptively detonated one of their bombs. After all, as a higher-dimensional being now, controlling the timeline of the crazy bomb was effortless. This was something Su Bai had been unable to do before. In the end, all the plot was still under Su Bai's control. Lu Wuyin successfully lured Li Hanfeng, and it was a particularly successful lure, directly bringing the main force over. With that, Su Bai glanced at the last mirror. They had the upper hand. However, before that, Su Bai put on a special piece of equipment. Soon, Lu Wuyin arrived with a large group. There was only one entrance to the secret realm in front of them, and there wasn't a single person within a 10-mile radius. Senior brotherly, perhaps that soul is still inside the secret realm. Lu Wuyin couldn't be sure. Then you go in and bring him out. This put Lu Wuyin in a difficult position because he had thought a lot along the way. He knew Su Bai had set a trap here, and he would definitely release the monsters inside. At that point, it would be a massacre. If he entered early, the monsters might be released ahead of time, making him the first to die. He couldn't question Li Hanfeng's orders either. Listening to him might leave him a way out in the future, but not listening would certainly lead to a fate worse than death. Whether he went in or not, he would die either way. Damn it, the heavens are merciless. And all beings are like grass dogs. You all want to force me to death. Just as Lu Wuyin was at a loss, several bubbles formed in the air outside the secret realm. A figure dressed strangely and entirely in white appeared at the entrance. Li Hanfeng pushed Lu Wuyin aside. Take off your mask, Situ Xiao. This is your doing with the tiger head peak, isn't it? Don't think that just because you set a trap here, I will be afraid of you. The white-clad man's hood was pulled down, revealing Su Bai's face. You are not Situ Xiao. Of course I'm not Situ Xiao. I'm Su Bai, from our sect's cooking team. As for Situ Xiao and Tiger Head B, I killed both of them. Oh, by the way, let me tell you one more thing. Leng Yuechan was also killed by me. Who told Tiger Head B to reveal things you shouldn't know? Li Hanfeng gasped. Could it be that Tiger Head B had confessed to him? Su Bai had indeed killed several disciples and snatched many pieces of the great Tao from them. No matter what, he had to capture Su Bai first. Li Hanfeng waved his iron hand, and 30 disciples instantly formed a net formation. Just as the sword lights were about to envelop Su Bai, Li Hanfeng's body suddenly twisted into a mosaic-like light spot. This was his high-dimensional secret technique. His entire body turned into data mosaic. If he suffered harm, the enemy's attack would fall into a blurred area. In this area, everything could be reconstructed. It could be simply understood as Schrödinger's cat. For example, if your sword stabbed me, in this blurred area, everything could be defined by me. It could also mean you didn't stab me at all, or if you did, how deep it went, whether it pierced through. All could be customized. However, the reality was that Su Bai had no intention of fighting them at all. Instead, he put on his mask and activated the time-space teleportation. A wave of bubbles rose up. The person disappeared on the spot. Everyone was stunned. 34 spatial fluctuation. 500 miles to the northwest. The forehead of a sensing disciple bulged with veins. Damn it, let him escape. Senior brotherly. He can't get away. He's currently in a frozen state. Probably due to the after effects of the teleportation just now. Good. We will feel him within a minute at most, even at 500 kilometers. The group finally arranged themselves to pursue. Suddenly, a loud explosion echoed in the secret realm. Countless women's heads flew out from within. Some disciples were caught off guard and had their necks bitten off on the spot. Others were entangled by black hair and unable to move. Quick, form the formation. Li Hanfeng used his iron hands to snap the hair entangling the disciples and drew a blood symbol with the judge's pen. 34. Thunderfire formation of the Qian position. Before the words left his mouth, 3 women's heads suddenly exploded, and the flying bone shards pierced the throats of 2 disciples. 34 opened the 7 orifices. With Li Hanfeng's roar, 7 disciples simultaneously pierced their swords through the 7 orifices of one head. However, more heads transformed into countless hair snakes, entwining the blades and instantly shredding the 7 into bloody fragments. Li Hanfeng's eyes twitched as he bit his tongue, spraying his blood onto the judge's pen, igniting it with blazing flames. All those floating in the air began to wail. Then, with a series of bangs, the heads exploded from the inside due to the high temperature. This sudden ambush resulted in a direct loss of 13 of Li Hanfeng's forces. Continue to chase Subai? How dare he ambush us? But before he could finish, a gigantic head emerged from the secret realm, its black hair spreading like a storm, blocking out the sun. Even Subai, who had just thought out 500 miles away and saw this scene through a spy satellite, couldn't help but gasp in shock. For a moment, he couldn't clarify why he had the time-traveling Ivan tie a bomb to the last mirror while delaying outside, releasing this massive thought. Fortunately, he was wearing the uniform of the time-traveling Legion, allowing him to teleport instantly, avoiding the confrontation with such a powerful enemy. Chapter 378. The Great Escape. The enormous head devoured the sky and earth. Amidst the tangled black hair, the world was engulfed in darkness. The disciples below scattered and fled. Even though they were all fellow disciples, they wouldn't help those ensnared by the black hair. After all, one's own life was more important in life and death situations. Just as everyone was about to escape, they reached a valley where a massive army surged in at the mountain pass. Each soldier wielded AK-47s, wearing dogskin hats, drinking vodka, and shouting Yura. Among them were soldiers armed with automatic rifles mingling in. The first wave of fleeing disciples made eye contact with the approaching forces. Countless bullets flew toward them. Instantly, the disciples fell to the ground, shot. Blood spilled everywhere. What is going on? Where did all these humans come from? Someone shouted in panic. Humans? To be precise, it was a mix of forces from the Eastern faction and their allies. After escaping their pursuit, Subai set up an ambush at the 2 mountain passes of their convoy, just as he had planned. The outcome was as he expected. Even if the opposing side could overpower them, they wouldn't be willing to fight to the death. They would definitely retreat. Setting up a sniper point in this strategic location was the most suitable choice. Some disciples immediately drew their flying swords, preparing to take to the skies to escape. But the skies were also filled with advanced fighter jets. A barrage from the aircraft's cannons rained down, turning them into a bloody mess on the spot. Blood mist erupted, falling like rain to the ground. This sudden ambush caught the disciples off guard. Everyone immediately halted and began to retreat. After all, this unexpected attack had truly left them in a state of shock. At that moment, a massive human head slowly floated over from the rear. Senior brother Li Hanfeng used his judgment pen to seal the 8 major acupoints of the head, which slowed its approach somewhat. However, he still couldn't kill it. It's the Master's wife, someone exclaimed, recognizing the face. She is the wife of our sect leader. The sect leader, known as the Primordial Heavenly Sovereign, had a wife named the Queen Mother of the West, who was the first queen to enter the higher dimensional realm. She was well-versed in celestial arts and secret techniques. Hundreds of billions of years ago, while wandering, the Primordial Heavenly Sovereign encountered her. Both were dissatisfied with the rule of the supreme deities and came to Mount Sumeru together to establish a dojo, using their unparalleled powers. They recruited disciples and jointly founded a sect, greatly promoting the celestial path. However, during a great calamity 700 million years ago, the Queen Mother of the West fought alone against the supreme deity to protect the disciples. She used forbidden techniques that severely injured the enemy, but was also corrupted by demonic energy and subsequently went missing. The Primordial Heavenly Sovereign searched far and wide, but to no avail. He spent days and nights alone in her former chamber, once weeping for 3 days and 3 nights. Now that this enormous head has reappeared, what secrets does it conceal? Is this head, resembling the Queen Mother of the West, truly the wife of the infinite Heavenly Sovereign? The key point is that the sect leader said she died fighting the supreme deity and had already perished. How could she now appear as a gigantic head, imprisoned in this negative realm? Is she really the Master's wife? It can't be wrong. Look, she still has the hairpin that Master gave her. It's identical. Upon seeing this, Li Hanfeng was also at a loss. If this head truly belonged to the Master's wife, then everything Master had said before was a lie. Perhaps he was the one who killed her and buried her here. And now this secret was being revealed to the public. Where would Master put his old face? Will it eventually evolve into a Master killing to silence? While he was pondering, hundreds of disciples were ensnared by long hair and sent into the mouth of a woman. Smack, smack, they were all eaten. The pristine white teeth were stained red with blood. The woman revealed a sweet smile, seemingly satisfied with the ingredients she had consumed. Note: a huge energy fluctuation appears in the southwest. Suddenly, a nuclear-level alarm sounded here. Therefore, he hurriedly recalled his troops and hid. Soon, a figure appeared in the distance. An old man, with an ethereal demeanor and youthful appearance, stood atop a mountain, gazing at the giant woman's head in the distance. He couldn't help but stroke his white hair and beard. Look, there's someone on the mountain peak. It's the second elder. Great, we are saved. The second elder has come. We are saved. Truly, there is always a way out. Cheers erupted, and some disciples had already flown to the second elder's side. Second elder. This monstrous head that suddenly appeared has eaten many of our brothers. Please take action and kill this beast. The second elder, however, was unhurried and said lightly. This creature looks peculiar and seems somewhat familiar. What does it resemble? Someone blurted out, the Master's wife. After saying this, they quickly covered their mouth. No, I misspoke. This monster can change its form. I can't tell. I really can't tell. The second elder nodded slightly. That's right. It does resemble the Master's wife. The disciples were dumbfounded. If the second elder said so, didn't that confirm the matter? If they returned like this, how would the Master's reputation hold up? But the next moment, the second elder said, since you all know, I need to deal with this mess for the Master. As soon as he finished speaking, a chilling black mist suddenly surged around him, and his eyes glowed a sinister red. A cold light shot out from his sleeve, instantly transforming into thousands of sharp blades, darting like phantoms among the disciples. They didn't even have time to scream. Their throats were slit, and their hearts pierced. In an instant, the ground was littered with corpses, and warm blood flowed between the rocks, staining the hem of the second elder's clothing. He cast a cold glance and landed before the remaining disciples. This scene once again shocked the disciples of Shimi Mountain. The second elder actually killed his own disciples. Second elder, why are you doing this? We are all your disciples. You are usually compassionate. Why have you changed so much? Even Li Hanfeng was taken aback, although he claimed to be a favored disciple under the elder's tutelage. A key focus of training, he couldn't shake off the suspicion that he might also be silenced here. Thus, he steeled himself and decided to take the initiative. With a fierce strike, he slammed the jade talisman at his waist, and toxic mist instantly engulfed half of the disciples. Amidst the screams of those whose skin was rotting, he whipped out the steel cable from the end of the judgment pin, crushing the necks of 10 individuals. His iron fingers triggered the mechanism, and the pen's tip exploded with 300 poisoned steel needles, dropping 70 people who clutched their bloodied wounds to the ground. The remaining disciples charged at him with swords, but he plunged his iron hand into the ground, lifting a stone slab that sent 20 flying. The judgment pin spun open, releasing black flames, causing 30 fire figures to roll on the ground in agony. As the last 50 turned to flee, he hurled out 9 ring chains that entangled the mountain rocks, causing the entire cliff to collapse with a thunderous roar. Once the dust settled, he stepped over the rubble, finishing off the survivors by crushing their skulls one by one. Senior brother Liu, you actually killed us to silence us. One of them exclaimed. Don't you know, when the cunning hare dies, the hounds are cooked? Chapter 379, The Truth, Elder Second. Now no one knows about the Master. Li Hanfeng knelt down. The elder adjusted his beard and nodded approvingly. This child can be taught. This child can be taught. Very well, let this matter pass. After all, Li Hanfeng is a prodigy of the sect, a powerful force against the supreme deity in the future. If he were to be killed for knowing too much, it would indeed be a loss. The elder looked up at the massive head of a woman in the distance. Now, let us work together to slay her. Yes. The elder threw out the beads from his sleeve. The beads flew into the air, spinning and expanding, emitting rays of golden light. The golden rings suddenly locked onto the woman's head. Li Hanfeng's iron hand turned red as he struck, causing cracks to form. His right hand with the judgment pin spewed fire, turning the woman's black hair to ash. The head screamed, shattering the rocks around. The beads cracked open in 3 places, and the elder spat out blood. Li Hanfeng went in for the kill, thrusting his iron hand into the eye socket. The head suddenly opened its eyes, biting down on the beads. Quick, strike the crown, the elder shouted. Li Hanfeng's iron hand smoked as he aimed for the skull, but unfortunately, this strike failed. Instead, the enormous head released a cloud of toxic gas, spraying it towards the chanting elder. The elder's left arm was corroded, black blood oozing out, and suddenly, his entire arm broke off. Roaring in pain, he used the blood from his severed arm to draw a symbol, strike the temple. Li Hanfeng thrust his iron hand into the left temple of the woman's head, but was caught by her fangs. With a crunch, he yelled as he jabbed the judgment pin into her nostril. Die, old hag. He crushed 3 of her ribs with his iron hand. The head let out a piercing scream, and the elder seized the opportunity to compress the beads further. The opponent seemed to be under a tightening spell, her head being continuously squeezed. Finally, it was squeezed into a gourd shape, until he could no longer endure it, when the dark light exploded. The head retreated into the rift of the secret realm. Li Hanfeng collapsed on the ground, half of his body a bloody mess. The second elder staggered and pressed down on the seal. 34 Take the black jade continuous ointment 34. Li Hanfeng stumbled and took out the black jade continuous ointment from the space, applying it to his wounds. Instantly, his near-fatal injuries began to heal. Subsequently, he applied the ointment on the second elder. The black jade continuous ointment emitted a green light, but the second elder's severed arm began to ooze black blood. 34 This medicine can even stick back together if shattered. 34 Li Hanfeng roared at the sight of his healing wounds. Suddenly, the second elder's severed arm burst open with 3 blood vessels. 34 The poison of the Queen Mother of the West has merged into the bloodline. 34 As soon as the ointment was applied, it turned into black liquid, and the wound grew fleshy tendrils. The second elder had no choice but to cut away some of his intact flesh. The black jade continuous ointment, a divine medicine from the Shumi Mountain, was only available in small quantities to elite disciples and elders. For those who used it, even if they were already dead, as long as one nerve cell survived, the entire body could be replicated and cloned, growing a brand new body, returning to peak condition. Unfortunately, the Queen Mother of the West's moves were too ruthless, rendering even the black jade continuous ointment powerless. Master, I will help you walk, Li Hanfeng said softly. The second elder sighed, having no choice but to comply. As Li Hanfeng bent down, the second elder suddenly thrust a dagger from his severed arm. The iron blade pierced 3 inches into his dantian, black blood spraying onto the second elder's twisted face. 34 Why? 34 Li Hanfeng violently retreated, crashing into the rocks, his iron hand grasping at exposed intestines. The second elder shook off the flesh from the dagger. 34 You were originally the pride of the sect. I did not want to kill you, but alas, I am now seriously injured, and this position of the second elder will likely have to be relinquished. You are my most favored disciple, and you will surely report this to the sect leader in my stead. So do not blame me. 34 Li Hanfeng knelt on the ground, clutching his belly, unable to close his eyes in death. He regretted using all the black jade continuous ointment on the second elder. Otherwise, he could have saved himself. Observing this scene through a spy satellite, Su Bai was also shocked. This Shumi Mountain, from top to bottom, was filled with villains. Not a single good person could be found. It seemed they were rallying to oppose the supreme deity, gathering a group of righteous souls with a spirit of resistance. But in reality, they were of the same ilk as the supreme deity. The second elder left, and Su Bai did not intercept him. If he had killed him, everything would become unclear. After the elder left, Su Bai returned to the rift of the secret realm. He saw the Queen Mother of the West on the brink of death. The countless bubbles that had once existed had already been detonated by the SEAL team. She was completely unable to return inside to recover. With a wave of a large hand, millions of troops surrounded her. Given the long duration of the battle, there should have been many fragments of the Great Tao. However, despite the prolonged entanglement, none of the disciples had collected a single fragment. Perhaps these fragments were all taken back by the Western Queen Mother. Nevertheless, this posed no problem for Su Bai. His mining vehicle could collect the cores from those heads. He had previously collected the cores of thoughts, so this should be similar. All troops, pay attention. Assemble. Prepare to attack. The soldiers immediately got ready, waiting for Su Bai to give the command. The combined firepower of heaven and earth would cover the area, taking down the Western Queen Mother in an instant. At that moment, the gigantic head surprisingly opened its mouth and let out a sigh. Su Bai was taken aback. Could it still possess human thought? The thoughts he had encountered before were filled with pain, despair, jealousy, and hatred, various negative emotions. Was this one different? To his surprise, the Western Queen Mother spoke. You're not dead? Western Queen Mother? Dead? I actually wish I were dead. Unfortunately, some people won't let me die. What do you mean? You think your million-strong army can kill me? I am the Western Queen Mother, the creator of the fragments of the great Tao in this world. So, I will not die. If I die, there will be no new fragments of the great Tao in the future. Unless I commit suicide, no one can kill me. But I will never commit suicide, because I still have enemies to kill. That is the Supreme God, and the primordial heavenly sovereign. Oh, then we have the same goal. My goal is also to kill the Supreme God. Su Bai raised an eyebrow. You? The Western Queen Mother carefully observed Su Bai. She couldn't see clearly whether he was from the timeline or the spatial line, just like the previous Supreme God. Thus, she let out a bitter smile and began to recount her past. At the beginning of the chaos, The Western Queen Mother joined forces with the Supreme God to create the world. The Supreme God transformed dimensions and wove the world with lines, while the Western Queen Mother filled the gaps with fragments of the Great Tao. However, she gradually realized that the Supreme God was merely using her power to satisfy his ambition to control everything. At that time, the primordial heavenly sovereign was born and fell in love with the Western Queen Mother, establishing Mount Sumeru beyond the high dimensions. After the two left, the Supreme God became furious and raised an army. Little did he know that the primordial heavenly sovereign secretly struck, destroying his physical body, severing his head, and sealing it, threatening the Supreme God that if he attacked, he would destroy the Western Queen Mother and cut off the source of the fragments of the Great Tao. From then on, the Western Queen Mother became a printing machine for creating fragments of the Great Tao, enduring endless humiliation and hatred that burned fiercely in her heart. Chapter 380. A life of indulgence. I can give you power, but you must help me take revenge. Can you do it? Subai smiled. If he couldn't do it, why would he go to such lengths to come here? All right. As soon as the words were spoken, the severed head of the Western Queen cracked open 7 orifices, and colorful beams wrapped in golden runes poured into Lin Mo's crown. Lin Mo's eyeballs instantly exploded into blood mist, replaced by swirling nebulae. Each rib sprouted jade-colored oracle bone scripts. 12 crystalline spines burst out from his back, each ending with compound eyes capable of seeing causal lines. Suddenly, the shadow beneath Subai stood up and gripped his throat. 7 illusory figures tore through his flesh, each clone screaming as they melted away. When the 8th phalanx pierced his heart, a black hole suddenly opened in his left chest, swallowing the 7 decaying versions of himself. With every beat of the newly born 9-aperture Linglong heart, 3 layers of spatial barriers shattered. Ugh! Subai's right arm abruptly bent backward, the broken bone piercing through his elbow and growing into a bronze, celestial armillary sphere. Through the instrument, he glimpsed the truth of the 9-dimensional world, with 100,000 timelines resembling glowing worms gnawing at the quantum liver he had just grown. At that moment, every pore of Subai's body emitted purple lightning, his ankles sinking into the manifesting chaos laws, each step leaving behind burning hexagrams. The head of the Western Queen began to petrify. Remember, help me take revenge. Once everything returned to calm, Subai found his understanding of the world had changed once again. Perhaps in a higher dimensional continent, it only manifested as an enhancement of power. However, upon returning to the lower dimensional world, that sense of divinity became even more intense. At this point, he had evolved from 7 dimensions to 9. He was only 2 steps away from becoming a true deity. If he reached 11 dimensions, then punching the highest god and stepping on the primordial heavenly sovereign would be no problem at all. Now, with his current strength, summoning an army to deal with the 2nd elder should be easy. He could even eradicate all the elders of Mount Shumi. However, Subai still needed this vessel. After tidying up, Subai left the place. Outside the negative world, the 2nd elder wore a dull expression, his eyes filled with sadness. He sighed deeply. So many outstanding disciples in Mount Shumi have met with misfortune. I, as an elder, am unworthy. Overcome with sorrow, he even shed a few tears. A disciple who had exited the negative world early quickly comforted him. Master, this is not your fault. Who could have predicted that the previously cleared negative world would now be plagued by demons once again? If you falter, how can we disciples, who crawled out from the pile of corpses, stand in this chaotic world? Very well. As soon as I return, I will immediately report to the sect leader and ensure that more disciples from the sect are brought next time. We must completely eradicate the evil here. After saying this, he waved his hand, preparing to close the rift in the negative world. At that moment, a figure emerged from the black and white light. The remaining 100 survivors were stunned. Hadn't the 2nd elder said that there were no living people inside? He had thoroughly checked and believed he had saved everyone who could be saved, even giving away his most precious black jade ointment to his disciples, which had left his arm unable to recover until now. The figure grew larger, and its appearance became clearer. A disciple dressed in the garb of a miscellaneous worker stepped out and waved to the crowd. At this, everyone was both surprised and delighted. There was actually a living disciple. They rushed over. You survived? How did you do it? There were demons rampaging inside, and then there were disasters? The 2nd elder was also taken aback. He had clearly confirmed that there were no survivors inside. How could someone come out now? Could it be? He dismissed the surrounding disciples and approached the person to ask, "What is your name, and which disciple are you?" The person replied, "My name is Subai, and I am just a disciple from the outer sect's kitchen." "Oh, Subai, then let me ask you, are there still any living senior brothers inside?" This question was very awkward, and Subai could clearly sense the malice in the 2nd elder's eyes. He also understood that the other party was actually asking if there were any witnesses left. So he smiled slightly. "I escaped all the way here without encountering any other disciples." The 2nd elder nodded meaningfully. I see. You are indeed fortunate amidst misfortune. You seem to be a natural lucky star. There is no need for you to work in the outer sect anymore. Come to my place and become an inner sect disciple. Su Bai feigned a shocked expression, then bowed his head. The group returned to the mountain gate, and the second elder reported the situation. The Supreme Primordial Lord did not impose any punishment, but simply instructed everyone to rest well and even brought better ointments as rewards for the second elder. Lin Mo returned to his residence, saying he was packing his luggage, though he had very little to pack. He issued new orders to all his spies and then moved into the inner sect. As soon as he entered the inner sect quarters, he casually tossed a few items onto the bed. Indeed, the inner sect was much better. Everyone lived in single rooms. Just as he stepped out, he was surrounded by several disciples. Congratulations, a newcomer. Since you've been promoted to the inner sect by the master, are you going to see the master now? What kind of gift did you bring for your master? Su Bai was taken aback. The old man still has the nerve to ask for gifts. Brothers, to be honest, this is my first time entering the inner sect, and I don't know the rules inside. Several inner disciples burst into laughter. Then they took out some items. Most of these were herbs and rare treasures. Brothers, we love helping newcomers. Let's give these herbs to the master. He will definitely be very happy. Su Bai nodded and was about to take the treasures from their hands. Wait a moment. This herb costs 1,000,000 fragments of the Tao. We are all brothers, so we won't make things difficult for you. Su Bai smiled. This stuff? I previously snatched a whole bunch. It's worthless. They think I'm easy to bully and want to take advantage of me. They even want 1,000,000 fragments of the Tao? You brothers are so kind to me. No. I mean, are you stupid? You need to give it to us. Give it to us. Su Bai twisted the wrist of the leading disciple, and the sound of bones shattering mixed with a scream erupted. He kicked out with his left foot, breaking the knees of 3 people with a loud bang. Now it's your turn to pay. The disciples he kicked flew through the redwood door, crashing into 3 intricately carved windows that shattered into wooden splinters. When the second elder appeared at the end of the corridor in his dark robe, Su Bai was stepping on someone's head, counting the treasures in his storage ring. Master! Master! Save me! This new junior brother is hitting people. He's stealing things. He's breaking the rules. Chapter 381. Coming back again, endless trouble disciples. Ignore him. Keep practicing. The second elder said. The beaten disciples could hardly believe their ears. He actually ignored them. One of the disciples crawled to the second elder's feet, hugging his leg and crying, Master, the newcomer is hitting people and stealing things. You must stand up for us. The second elder reached down and pried the trembling hands of this disciple away. Now that we know, this Su Bai is new to the outer sect and not familiar with our inner sect. We should be more tolerant and caring. I believe he will adapt. You few come with me. I have a table that needs moving. Wow, the sun must be rising in the west today. This newcomer is so impressive that even the second elder doesn't want to offend him. Who on earth is he related to? After the beaten disciples left, the second elder glared at Su Bai and said calmly, I let you enter the inner sect because I saw some cleverness in you. Just don't use that cleverness in the wrong place. With that, he turned and left. After the other party left, Su Bai muttered to himself, It seems the second elder already knows that I discovered the truth and wants me to keep a low profile. Then he smiled. This old man is quite sharp. He lost an arm and his strength has greatly diminished. He knows I left unscathed after the last quick kill. There must be some skill involved. The second elder probably fears confrontation, knowing he can't handle it directly. He's also wary of loose talk. It's best to keep him close, waiting for an opportunity to silence him. But isn't it easier said than done? In the days that followed, Su Bai ran rampant, trying every means to seize fragments of the great Tao from his fellow disciples. He would even manipulate his seniors to rob from others and then present the spoils to him. Under the second elder's command, chaos reigned, with everyone complaining incessantly. Yet the second elder turned a blind eye, seeking ways to revive himself after a setback. A few days later, Su Bai was chatting with the outer sect disciples in the cooking class when suddenly, an urgent bell rang out from the mountain gate. A large group of disciples gathered and hurried down the mountain. Naturally, Su Bai was summoned as well and followed the crowd to the archway at the mountain gate. Upon arrival, he spotted a familiar face from a distance, causing him to pause. It was Zhao Haoyan, the very person he had defeated with his forces last time. How could this be? Had he been resurrected by a supreme deity? It seemed plausible, given that he was quite a notable figure. However, Su Bai didn't take him seriously, as his main target was the supreme deity, Yuan Shi Tianzuan. Dealing with such a minor character was merely a trivial matter. But for now, it was best not to attract attention. Thus, Su Bai concealed his presence among the crowd. At that moment, a cascade of colorful clouds descended from the sky, transforming into a shimmering stairway leading to the foot of the mountain. Yuan Shi Tianzuan stepped down gracefully, flanked by 8 elders whose robes flowed like dragons in the radiant light. The glazed tiles of the mountain gate suddenly shimmered with golden mist, making Zhao Haoyan appear as if he were a celestial being descending to the world. This grand spectacle was the first time Su Bai saw the true visage of Yuanshi Tianzuan. So, the Lord of the Supreme Deity is here. What brings you to this place? Welcome, welcome. Zhao Haoyan chuckled and replied, There is no need for concern, Yuanshi Tianzuan. I have come merely to seek someone. It is indeed an honor to be welcomed with such grandeur. Oh, Yuanshi Tianzuan raised an eyebrow in response. I wonder whose influence is so great that it brings a lord like you personally to seek someone. Su Bai, Zhao Haoyan stated directly. To be honest with you, Yuanshi Tianzuan, this Su Bai has been causing chaos, capable of conjuring countless soldiers, firing lasers indiscriminately, and bombarding the high-dimensional continent, making it a tumultuous place. He has also seized many fragments of the great Tao from the Supreme Deity. It is now ordered to capture him, so the high-dimensional continent can return to peace. Yuanshi Tianzuan raised an eyebrow. There is such a lawless scoundrel. There are countless people in the world named Su Bai. We do not have such reckless individuals here. You should look elsewhere. After saying this, the Supreme Celestial Master waved his hand, and his subordinates presented 100 million fragments of the Tao. Zhao Haoyan accepted the items. His expression filled with joy. I won't disturb you any longer. I will continue my search elsewhere. Su Bai, hidden in the crowd, let out a sigh of relief. Zhao Haoyan was still deeply afraid of him, which is why he boasted so extravagantly. Thus, the Supreme Celestial Master firmly asserted that there was no one so extraordinary in their sect. However, this also proved one thing. The Supreme Celestial Master was all show and no substance, and did not dare to confront the highest deity head-on. It was likely that Zhao Haoyan had gained quite a lot from the highest deity as well. After this incident, everything returned to calm. There were 3 million inner disciples in the Shumi Mountain, but they were ranked and competed against each other every year. Those who ranked low would be expelled from the inner sect and become outer disciples doing menial tasks. Within the inner sect, there was a list called the Hidden Dragon Ranking, which only recorded the top 10 disciples. All disciples on the list were geniuses among geniuses, elites among elites, and were the reserve force to succeed the elders of Shumi Mountain in the future. Moreover, entering the Hidden Dragon Ranking allowed one to receive a high-level magical artifact from the sect, and the elders had to implicitly agree to pass on their teachings to those on the list. This was the rule. Once disciples entered the inner sect, they would receive 1 million fragments of the Tao as training capital. It can be said that the benefits of the inner sect were numerous. It wasn't until encountering Zhao Haoyan that Su Bai's qualification for the inner sect was fully established. After receiving 1 million Tao fragments and looting all the disciples under the elder, he had accumulated a total of 42 million. Young man, don't use up all these fragments. They have other purposes, the steward in charge of distributing supplies said with a smile. Every inner disciple would challenge once a month. If they did not volunteer, the sect would randomly assign someone for a duel. The Tao fragments served as bets, and if one matched against a weaker opponent, they might multiply their stakes several times. Therefore, it was wise to save some for future indulgences. If I draw someone from the Hidden Dragon Ranking, will I have to duel them? Su Bai asked. The steward nodded. Usually, yes. It is an honor to spar with a master from the Hidden Dragon Ranking, but you will definitely lose against them. When that happens, you'll just have to do their laundry and clean toilets. If only senior brother Song Qingshu could give me some pointers. Haha, even cleaning a couple of toilets would be worth it. Su Bai didn't mind. The Hidden Dragon Ranking was likely to change soon, as the few he had eliminated in the negative world belonged to the core top 100 of the sect. Now that he could defeat the second elder, were those prodigies on the Hidden Dragon Ranking truly his rivals? However, just to be safe, Su Bai continued to ask. Chapter 382, Challenge for the 9th place on the Qianlong list, by Zhan. The top 10 of the Qianlong list all possess strength above the 10-dimensional level, making them the strongest in the entire sect. The shopkeeper sighed again. It's a pity that Li Hanfeng, who reached the 10-dimensional level this time, lost his life in a world of defeat. The 9th place on the Qianlong list is bound to be a bloody storm. 9th place? Su Bai was somewhat surprised. He initially thought that Li Hanfeng should be in the top 3 of the sect, but he didn't expect the ranking to be so dismal, actually being at the bottom of the Qianlong list. The steward nodded. As a new disciple in the inner door, you should quickly refine these pieces of the Tao before you qualify to challenge the Qianlong list, so there's no need to rush. After saying this, Su Bai left. The shopkeeper looked at Su Bai meaningfully, shaking his head repeatedly. Just as he walked out, he saw 3 or 4 young men surrounding him. Su Bai didn't recognize these people. They should not be under the second elder. Why did you take so long to come out? The leader said. Do I know you? Su Bai replied disdainfully. Oh, every new disciple in the inner door starts with this rebellious expression. Brothers, why don't I practice on him? The others immediately began to shout. Rebellious? I also enjoy taming rebellious people. How about you all come at me together? The leading youth split into 3 after-images, charging at him with a thunderous force. Just as his fist was half an inch from Su Bai's nose, it suddenly froze. Su Bai crushed the illusion with his left hand and directly grabbed the real body's throat with his right hand. Too slow. With a twist of his wrist, he slammed the person onto the stone slab and then kicked to shatter the opponent's groin. Amidst the sound of cracking eggs, the other two remained frozen, watching their leader twitch on the ground like a dying shrimp in a pool of blood. Subai flicked the egg-like liquid from his fingertips. Who's next? The remaining young men were instantly stunned. Wow, how is this newcomer so strong? The youth who was down on the ground lamented, with such a painful expression. I still prefer your initial rebellious look when you try to rob me. Now, try to recover. However, the expression of this young man would never return. Subai, feeling annoyed, kicked him in the face, causing his entire face to cave in, turning it into a shoehorn shape. The others wanted to run, but Subai was faster. In an instant, he pulled them into a room and pinned them down. He closed the door and activated the barrier inside. Speak. You little minions think you can rob me? Who's behind this? The group trembled. We're just small fry, merely here to deliver a message. It's senior brother Baijan. The 9th place on the Qianlong list. Who wants to see you? Looking for me. I don't even know him. The young man replied, this is the rule. All disciples who join the inner sect must find one of the top 10 brothers on the hidden dragon list after receiving the fragments of the great Tao for the first time. They need to present the fragments and offer incense to the sect. After all, these top 10 disciples are the future elders. Your sect truly has issues from top to bottom. Forget it. Since it's Baijan looking for me, I'll go meet him. Then, Subai threw a knife from his space to one of the young men. Kill those few people. The young man was startled. Brother, my little brothers are blind to the great mountain. Why force us into such a corner? Murdering fellow disciples is a death penalty, and the punishment is worse than death. It's fine. If you can't do it, I'll kill you. There was no further talk. In the next moment, Subai kicked the young man's arm holding the knife. Under the immense force, the blade pierced through the speaker's Tian 2 point. The sound of shattered throat bones was drowned out by the gushing blood, and when the corpse fell back stiffly, the remaining 3 young men felt a warm stain spreading in their pants. Subai pulled out the knife and threw it to the next person. I know that killing fellow disciples is a death penalty, so I'll leave this task to you. After we finish, we'll deal with the bodies. And no one will know. The young man holding the knife gritted his teeth, while another continuously shook his head, and the one who had been kicked, with a face like a shoehorn, lay on the ground sobbing. I'm sorry, brother. The flash of the knife appeared. The cold light swept across, slicing through the throat with a couple of swishes. The 2 bodies collapsed like empty sacks, their carotid arteries spraying a fan-shaped rain of blood. Subai clapped his hands. Well done. The fragments of the great Tao from these few people are all yours. Then he used his 9-dimensional power to fold the bodies into it. He opened the barrier and left the room, laughing heartily afterward. If you bully the newcomers again, the next unfortunate one will be you. Subai was this audacious. He then headed towards the celestial peak where Baijan resided. If the people from the sect didn't seek trouble with him, he wouldn't bother with them either. But if they did come looking for trouble, sorry, Subai fears nothing. You'll just be a stepping stone on my path to becoming stronger. After all, he was currently looking for other fragments of the great Tao, and actively exposing himself was equivalent to sticking his head out. The celestial peak where Baijan lived was 999 zhang high, constantly surrounded by cosmic stardust, as brilliant and beautiful as the rings of Jupiter. Upon reaching the summit, he saw several people outside the cave. One of them laughed. The newcomer is quite slow. Another scolded, you're too damn slow, making me wait for so long. Mainly encountered some issues and dealt with a few people. After all, I had to handle the bodies after killing them, so it took some time. Please forgive me. Subai politely apologized. A few people at the entrance looked bewildered. One of them suddenly became furious. What the hell are you pretending to be in front of us? Seeking death. He was about to give Subai a show of strength. Stop. If you want to fight, take it outside. I don't want the aura of my celestial peak to be tainted by the dust of the mortal world. A young man dressed in luxurious attire walked out of the cave. This young man was Baijan. The crowd quickly apologized. Sorry, senior brother Bai, we were being arrogant. Baijan snorted coldly and looked at Subai. Subai was also sizing him up. This guy had a delicate face, shiny black hair tied up with a jade crown, and his long robe was adorned with golden patterns. A 10-foot-long golden belt draped from his waist. His slanted phoenix eyes had a hint of gloom, and he was spinning a blood-red ring on his finger. To be honest, he looked quite like a host from a nightclub. Kid, you look pretty good. Come on in. No problem, bro, Subai provocatively replied. Baijan suddenly froze. His footsteps halted as he turned back, his eyes filled with murderous intent. What did you just call me? I said, bro, as in duck bro, quack quack. Subai openly challenged him. Duck, with white feathers, kind of resembles me, but it would be better if you compared me to a swan. Subai was speechless. The other party still thought he was giving compliments. A disciple beside them said, newcomer, surrender the fragments to senior brother Bai. Subai didn't look at the disciple but turned to Baijan. Is this a rule? Baijan didn't mind and said, it's just an unwritten rule on Shumi Mountain. If you give me this, my power will increase, and when I become an elder, I definitely want to treat you badly. Oh, in that case, why don't we reverse it? You give me all the fragments, and when I become the sect leader, I won't treat you badly either, Subai said with a smile. You? Baijan's expression instantly soured. Subai added, yes, it's me. Do you really think you can take my fragments? Are you looking to die? Senior brother Bai, you might have misunderstood my intention. What I meant is that you should hand over your cave as well. That would be more appropriate. A loyal disciple beside Baijan cursed loudly, I'll kill you. The loyal disciple charged forward, but Subai kicked him in the knee. With a crack, the bone shattered, and the man knelt on the ground. You've gone too far. Baijan joined his hands together, and the cave was instantly sealed. I'll cut off your legs. His right hand suddenly drew out a 100-meter-long lightning sword and slashed down. Subai stomped his left foot, and from the depths of the sea, a red alert force surged forth. 1,000 magnetic storm soldiers charged out with electric forks. The lightning sword struck the soldiers, obliterating 500. But more continued to surge forth. 5,000, 10,000, 50,000. The entire cave was filled with flashes of lightning. Expand. Subai opened up the 9-dimensional space. 100,000 magnetic storm soldiers collectively discharged, and 1,000,000 bolts of lightning twisted into a 3,000-meter giant sword pierced through the barrier. The lightning sword shattered on the spot, and 1 billion volts surged into his body. Amidst the crackling sounds, black smoke erupted from his entire body. His hair turned to ashes, his skin charred and cracked, and the smell of burnt flesh mixed with the scent of roasted meat filled the entire space. He twitched and fell to the ground, his clothes reduced to ashes. Why are you so strong? You're just a new disciple. Subai smiled. Well, there are 2 paths now. One is that I challenge you, and your ranking will drop to the bottom, erasing your name from the top 10 of the Hidden Dragon list. The other is to hand over everything you have, and I will elevate you to the top of the Hidden Dragon list. This time, Subai did not directly kill his opponent. It would be simple to kill him, but what benefit would that bring? It was better to turn him into a pawn, to be used for his own purposes. Oh, you want to make me the number 1 on the Hidden Dragon list? Of course, the current top ranking in the sect is Song Qingshu. If you defeat him, won't you become number 1? But I can't defeat him. The strength of the senior brother is above that of the elders. He is destined to be the future sect leader. Then how do you perceive my strength? Subai asked. Your ability to conjure such numerous lightning soldiers and defeat me in one move shows that your strength is on par with Song Qingshu. Are you suggesting that you will teach me your techniques? If you are willing to teach me your skills to significantly enhance my power, I will give you everything here. Baijan had no choice. He couldn't defeat Subai, and if Subai forced a challenge, he would have to accept it, ending up as the last in the inner sect and becoming the laughingstock of the entire sect. If Subai was willing to teach him a couple of moves, then giving some benefits to Subai wouldn't be out of the question. After all, it was easier to make enemies than to resolve them. Who knows? This newcomer might have a significant background. He heard that he was recruited by the second elder and even promoted against the rules. Okay, in the afternoon, you can provoke the 9th-ranked disciple of the sect and give him a beating. What is the use of that? Shouldn't it be a formal challenge? Baijan was a bit puzzled. No need, just give him a beating. Here, Subai casually tossed him a concealed soldier ring. This item was originally used in the main god space. When his teammates wore this ring, they could summon the troops Subai had stored inside. What is this? The concealed soldier ring. Baijan understood Subai's method. When the time for battle came, he would use the ring to release the soldiers inside. This was indeed a good idea. Compared to needing to cultivate for ages to understand techniques, this was a quick and invincible method. After all, he had just witnessed the power of the magnetic storm soldiers firsthand. The 2 walked out of the cave. Baijan walked beside Subai like a little follower. The younger brother outside looked at the 2 with a puzzled expression. Today, I would like to introduce this person who is my master. His will is my will. Anyone who dares to disobey him is also disobeying me. Do you hear that? But what is going on here? After entering the cave, did the situation suddenly change? What kind of means did this new inner disciple use to make even the formidable figure bow in submission? Could it be that they used some underhanded tactics? Some people began to sigh in despair, wondering why their own fortunes were not better. The next morning, the 8th-ranked Ling Shao Peak was in an uproar. In the late hours of the night, someone had carved a few large words into the mountainside. Zhuge Xian is just a name, a useless person. Zhuge Xian, the 8th-ranked, looked at the inscriptions on the mountainside, his expression darkening. It was clear to him who was responsible. The mountain had been cut with the power of thunder and lightning, and that could only have been done by the formidable figure. This so-called useless person had previously attempted to challenge him, but ended up being toyed with by his 5 elements confinement array, suffering greatly and losing face. He never expected to think he could challenge again. Come, let's go find him and settle this. Zhuge Xian, skilled in the art of divination and the 5 elements confinement array, was well versed in all elements of the world and could utilize them to counter his opponent's attacks. When the formidable figure challenged him, even the power capable of splitting the universe was countered effectively by Zhuge Xian. You still have the audacity to challenge me? Remember how you were laughed at last time in public? It's surprising you haven't learned your lesson. Zhuge Xian ridiculed him. Now, apologize to me and carve I am useless. Zhuge Xian, I'm sorry on my mountain, and compensate me with 10 million pieces of Dao fragments, and we can let this go. Otherwise, I will make you experience that embarrassing feeling once more, reminding everyone of the time you knelt and begged for mercy. The formidable figure disdainfully replied, yes. I did carve those words, but I'm here for revenge. Revenge? You think you can challenge me? You're not even a worthy opponent in my eyes. I'm just here to beat you up. As soon as these words were spoken, it drew laughter from Zhuge Xian's disciples. And even the younger brother on the formidable figure's side felt their momentum drop. Previously, the formidable figure had indeed suffered a terrible defeat. Chapter 384. Challenge the 7th-ranked Ji Wuwang. The crowd stepped back to clear the arena. Zhuge Xian waved his feather fan, shooting out 5-element light wheels. While the formidable figure held his thunder sword to block, the light wheels brushed past the blade, collapsing the cliff, but suddenly split into 5 formations to encircle him. The 5 colored chains wrapped around the thunder sword, squeezing fiercely, and the backlash from the electric current caused the formidable figure to spit blood from his mouth. The fan moved with the momentum, causing a tenfold increase in gravitational force at the peak. Baijian suddenly knelt, shattering the granite beneath him. The sound of his spine cracking echoed, and blood splattered from his face, staining his clothes. You're still so weak, Baijian. A worthless dog who doesn't know his own strength. Zhuge Xian mocked, as those around him laughed loudly. They had never encountered someone so eager for a beating before. Zhuge Xian was a master of harnessing natural forces. Even when faced with the lightning attribute of the opponent's thunder sword, he could use an earth-based formation to counter it, completely dominating the situation. Baijian wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and stood unsteadily. Zhuge Xian lightly waved his fan, taunting, "You look better kneeling like the waste you are." Before he finished speaking, Baijian's ring suddenly flashed. 300 camouflage-clad troops appeared out of nowhere. Rat-tat-tat. Flames erupted, covering a radius of 100 meters, and shell casings rained down like a storm on the rocky ground. 10 Molotov cocktails arced towards Zhuge Xian, exploding into a sea of gasoline fire. The fierce flames singed the hem of his robe, while bullets from the machine gun caused his protective aura to flicker violently. Zhuge Xian rolled awkwardly into a pit, patting out the flames on his backside, his meticulously styled hair now a frizzy mess. Water formation. Zhuge Xian unleashed an icy water dragon toward the flames, but the Molotov cocktails erupted in blue demonic fire. The water barely touched the flames before exploding into scalding steam, burning half his face. 6 bullets from the machine gun pierced through his thigh, and Zhuge Xian collapsed to his knees, heart-wrenchingly raising his charred fan, shouting, "I give up. I surrender. Damn it, how did this happen? How could Baijian suddenly become so strong? When did he learn to summon troops? Normally, he would just beat his opponents with ease. This was too strange." The onlookers gaped in disbelief at the scene. Baijian recalled the troops, following Su Bai's instructions, and coldly huffed as he left. Back in the cave, Su Bai was resting on an ice fire bed. 2 beautiful disciples fanned him with palm leaves, while another fed him juicy peaches. "Be careful, senior brother. You're spilling juice all over my clothes." Life as a disciple of the Shumi Mountain School was almost like that of an immortal. Baijian quickly entered the cave and signaled to the surrounding disciples. They understood and quietly left. Suddenly, Baijian knelt down. "You're amazing. You really defeated Zhuge Xian. But why didn't you let me cripple him? That guy has humiliated me many times." Baijian was still somewhat unconvinced, feeling he hadn't hit hard enough. He thought he should have at least incapacitated him below the eyebrows to relieve the humiliation he'd endured over the years. Su Bai uncrossed his legs. "If you really made him incapable of taking care of himself, who would bring me gifts then?" Baijian still didn't understand what it meant. Outside the cave, a disciple came to report. The 2 of them went out and saw it was a subordinate of Zhuge Xian. "These Dao fragments were sent as compensation for previous disrespectful remarks. Please forgive us." The other party brought 100 million Dao fragments. The 2 exchanged glances and accepted the gift before returning to the cave. The fragments naturally belonged to Su Bai. Baijian said, "This guy knows how to give gifts. He's afraid of your formal challenge. If he loses, being ranked 8th would be embarrassing. So he's using these gifts to silence you. Next, you need to find out who is ranked 7th and challenge him." The 7th on the Qianlong ranking was Ji Wuwang, who no one dared to provoke. He had created a unique cultivation system called 10,000 Poisons Returning to Ruins, turning his own meridians into a toxic abyss capable of containing myriad poisons. His physical body perfectly fused with the toxins, making ordinary attacks ineffective against him. The more toxic the attack, the stronger he became. He had already reached the pinnacle of the poison god realm, able to manipulate the toxic forces of heaven and earth with ease and even manifest poison into tangible forms, creating deadly weapons. I'll probably just be sending myself to death if I fight him, Baijan said with a twitch of his mouth. The opponent had already turned his universe into a toxic star before entering the high-risk world, which had spread to surrounding parallel universes. He could be considered a super poison king. Subai nodded after hearing this. I'll give you this. With a flick of his hand, he summoned several types of troops from his Stone Sea: radiation engineers, virus snipers, and biochemical infantry from the Red Alert series. Subai explained, you need to use these 3 types of troops carefully, especially the radiation engineers. In terms of strength, the biochemical infantry is the weakest, followed by the virus snipers. Use them based on your opponent's strength. Don't use them recklessly. This time, there were 500 troops. Baijan was overjoyed. The speed of this improvement was truly astonishing. As for saving the strongest radiation engineers for last, he thought that was unnecessary. Why not take out the strongest and finish the opponent in one blow? That would be truly impressive. Why bother fighting with the weakest? If the opponent can withstand it, it would just be embarrassing. His mouth twitched uncontrollably. However, he still said, don't worry, I will definitely follow your guidance. At the foot of Poison Cloud Peak, Baijan shouted at the top, Gee Wooly, after so many toxins, your body must be weak like a soft-shelled shrimp. With all those needles, can you still call yourself a man? Behind him, his underlings laughed. Even the ladies of the Flower Tower would probably disdain you for being so weak. At the peak, the poisonous clouds surged violently and quickly condensed into a massive skeleton face that dove down, its eye sockets filled with toxic mist glaring at Baijan. You want to die, you bastard? To be honest, Ji Wuwang had already studied poisons to the point of weakening his own body. In the sect, everyone knows about it. But no one dares to mention it. After all, it is a taboo. If Ji Wuwang finds out, he will not kill the person and violate the rules of Shimi Mountain. Instead, he will turn the person into a toxic being, whose body deteriorates every moment until it turns into a toxic liquid at dawn. The next day, the poison will counteract itself, restoring the body and starting a new cycle of deterioration. Unless Ji Wuwang provides the antidote, the person will have to endure this suffering for a lifetime. Many disciples cannot withstand such torment and choose to commit suicide. As for those who commit suicide, it has nothing to do with Ji Wuwang. Haha, to be honest, I came today to see if you can still hold on, but it seems you really can't. It looks like you want me to turn you into a toxic being. Highly toxic. Radiation engineer. The two launched their attacks simultaneously. The radiation engineer's backpack slammed to the ground. Buzz. The entire toxic cloud peak was instantly stained green. The rocks melted and bubbled. The plants screamed and carbonized. The disciples' flesh rotted away to the bone. Baijan's right arm's skin peeled away, exposing the bony knuckles in the green light. Ji Wuwang fared worse. His protective toxic mist was disintegrated by the radiation, and 10 fingernails fell off with a snap. Stop. I concede, he screamed, retreating with a skeletal face. Baijan, with a mouthful of shattered teeth spewing blood, shouted, You worthless fool. You can't even last 10 breaths. Half of his face was shaking with the laughter of decayed flesh. The bony claws dug into the rock crevices as Baijan dragged his rotting left leg back. Remember this. He spat blood towards Toxic Cloud Peak. Next time I see you, I'll smash you again. The radiation green tide continued to spread. The disciples turned into skeletons and fell. Baijan's right face revealed his gums as he desperately tore open a spatial rift and dove back into his cave. Subai on the stone bed frowned. Watching Baijan, who was crawling in with his body rotting and the ground emitting hissing white smoke from corrosion, he said, Master, save me. The bony hand slapped the cold jade bed, immediately releasing a burnt smell like grilled meat. Subai kicked him away. Don't touch me. What happened to the other side? The other side conceded, but you didn't mention that this kind of soldier attacks indiscriminately. I'm about to die too. You need to find a way to save me. Subai rubbed his chin. This guy Baijan was still useful for now. He couldn't die just yet. So he said, Who told you to be so reckless, releasing so many soldiers at once? Didn't you know to take it step by step? With your current state, the only thing that might cure you is the black jade continuity ointment from the primordial heavenly sovereign. That thing is extremely precious. The master only gives it to the elders, 1 per year. How could we ordinary disciples have such treasures? And if they find out we're causing trouble and fighting, we'll inevitably be punished. Subai nodded. Now I'm giving you a second chance to reach your former peak state. Upon hearing this, Baijan's eyes lit up with boundless hope. Hurry, master. However, your original body will still die, and a new version of you will be reborn. Are you willing? Baijan immediately understood what this meant. Isn't this just reincarnation? If he could transfer into a stronger body, of course he was willing. Besides, he had no other choice now. He could only nod in agreement. Subai led him to the back mountain, the location of his hidden base. A rift generator operated around the clock, providing a perpetual veil of darkness, now elevated to a higher dimension. Ordinary disciples entering the mountain couldn't even access the rift generator's area. One might say this place had become a non-existent black box. Where is this? So many troops. Are they all under your command? Bai Zhan, weak as he was, felt stunned. Without a word, Su Bai guided him to the replication center. The iron door hissed open, revealing a vat of green, bubbling nutrient fluid. Su Bai kicked Bai Zhan's mangled body into the pod. Lie down. You'll be reborn in 5 minutes. The moment the hatch closed, alarms blared. Thump. 8 metal probes pierced through Bai Zhan's skull, and mechanical arms whirred into action. Peeling skin and scraping bone. Arg. Screams mingled with the sounds of shattering bones, echoing throughout the base. On the electronic screen, cell division values skyrocketed. 2 hours later, hiss. A pressure valve released a cloud of white steam. The hatch slid open, and 2 naked Bai Zhan stepped out simultaneously. The one on the left saw his counterpart, and his pupils contracted sharply. Imposter, you're dead. A lightning sword materialized in his palm. The one on the right bared his fangs. I'm the real one. Identical lightning erupted from his hand. Boom. As the 2 bolts of lightning clashed. 30 machine gun turrets aimed in unison at both of them. Su Bai's voice rang out calmly. One more move, and you'll be turned into sieves. Chapter 386. Double the bodies. Double the labor. The 2 Bai Zhans moved in perfect sync, kneeling and kowtowing until their foreheads thudded against the metal floor. Master, he's the fake. Nonsense. I'm the original. Their foreheads pressed to the ground, yet their eyes venomously tore into each other. Enough. Su Bai tapped his arm lightly. From what I've learned recently, you 2 snatched Dao fragments from 372 newcomers. The muzzles of the mobilized soldiers remained trained on them. You caused 7 cultivators to lose all their cultivation and jump off a cliff. One Bai Zhan broke out in a cold sweat that dripped into his eyes. The year before last, you forced yourself on a junior's Dao companion and pushed her into a snake pit afterward. The other Bai Zhan swallowed hard, his atoms apple bobbing. Su Bai chuckled. Though it's a bit despicable, a bit shameless, but it's not a fatal flaw. People are not sages. Who can be without faults? I understand that. The tones suddenly turned cold. Now, the 5th sword madman and the 6th cursebone woman. Whoever performs well will survive. The 2 received their orders. With a flick of Su Bai's sleeve, the stone sea churned. The movements of the radiation engineer were too loud, so let me get you some suitable tools. Immediately, the temperature in the back mountain gradually became scorching. Large groups of giants quickly occupied this place, under the glow of the earth fire. The crimson berserkers smashed through the rock layers and roared out, their muscular bodies with veins flowing like magma. The entire back mountain trembled under the tremendous weight of thousands of tons. Roar! A torrent of berserkers surged out. With each step they took, the ground cracked with spiderweb-like fractures, and the air was filled with the steam of sulfur. There are 2,000 berserkers here. Each of you use your own soldier storage rings to collect them. Su Bai waved his hand. The soldiers let the 2 divide them at will. Bai Zhan, right, had just caught a berserker with the soldier absorption technique when he was knocked away 3 zhang by another berserker. Amid the sound of cracking bones, his head was crushed into the steel plate. Fool, that's my soldier. Nonsense. Bai Zhan, left, scratched the screen with his nails, creating sparks, and tore him apart. 10 berserkers immediately grabbed the limbs of their competitor. Amid the sound of metal grinding, Bai Zhan, right, S robe was forcibly torn into rags. Wanna die early? All the berserkers instantly froze and knelt down towards Su Bai with a thundering sound. The shockwave from their knees hitting the ground sent 2 Bai Zhans flying, their exposed backs scraping heavily against the jagged metal edges. You 2 are on the same side. We are all flesh and blood, so you can't harm each other. Su Bai said. The 2 calmed down. They could only methodically collect the berserkers into their rings. Soon after, the 3 left the back mountain. The fissure generator went dark again. In the cave, as the 2 received their orders and just left, they saw 2 young boys coming with a great gift. Brother Su, may I ask if Brother Bai is here? He is not. Oh, these shards are my brother's apology gift. I hope you can accept them. Su Bai glanced at them. The number of fragments brought by the other party was double that of before. I've accepted the items. You can take the apology back. The Taoist boy said no. By the way, Brother Su, may I ask if there is an antidote? Brother G's injuries are indeed quite severe, and ordinary ointments are ineffective. Could you ask Brother Bai for some antidote? Su Bai shrugged. Actually, we don't have an antidote. Otherwise, if there were an antidote, how could it be called the world's strongest poison? However, I heard that Master has a black jade healing ointment. That stuff can heal. With that, Su Bai didn't want to chat with the other party any longer. After taking a sip of tea, the host saw the guests off. Chapter 387. The Arrival of the Creator God, the night before the final battle. A few days later, among the 10 disciples, only Song Qingshu had not yet issued a challenge. The entire sect was in a very peculiar state. On the surface, everything seemed normal, but privately, they were already filled with fear. Bai Zhan was the only one who had not confronted Song Qingshu directly. All the others had been defeated by him. Meanwhile, Su Bai was continuously cultivating, successfully advancing to the mid-stage of 10 dimensions through the collected fragments of the Tao. Now, he was very close to the pinnacle of the universe, the primordial heavenly sovereign and the creator god. On this day, everyone was gathered in the gathering hall. The primordial heavenly sovereign sat solemnly at the front. The elders furrowed their brows, and the atmosphere in the hall was tense. The primordial heavenly sovereign spoke in a low voice. The creator god is already at the foot of the mountain. The heavenly mystery maze has trapped him for tens of thousands of years, but it was broken yesterday. Either we defend the mountain or face annihilation. Otherwise, in this chaotic world, he will reign supreme, and we will have no land left for our cultivation. As his words fell, the air in the hall seemed to freeze. The elders and disciples stood like wax figures, shocked into silence. How could this be? The chaotic formation was boundless. If one entered the mountain gate normally, they would not trigger the chaotic formation. However, if they approached with hostility and immense energy, they would automatically fall into the trap. The only option would be to retreat. With no other alternatives available, the crowd began to whisper among themselves, but the elders cleared their throats, restoring silence. The primordial heavenly sovereign's gaze swept over everyone, and the words "defend the mountain" weighed heavily in the air. Each elder led their disciples to various mountain gates, taking turns day and night without interruption. Song Qingshu stood forward as the primordial heavenly sovereign's gaze landed on him. As the chief disciple of the inner sect, he was responsible for overseeing the defenses and filling any gaps. He stepped forward, bowed, and accepted the order with a calm and steady voice. Holding his badge, light shimmered around it as the elders each took their commands. Bai Zhan remained silent among the crowd, while Su Bai's expression turned serious. After the arrangements were complete, Su Bai returned to Bai Zhan's cave. Both the original Bai Zhan and his clone asked in unison, "Brother Bai, what should we do next? If the creator god attacks, even the primordial heavenly sovereign may not be able to withstand it. Moreover, if the two powerful figures exchange a few blows and then reconcile, we, the pawns, might end up in a sea of blood." Su Bai nodded. Yes, this is indeed a concern. He stroked his chin, pondering carefully. Even if it wasn't the creator god approaching him, the resurrected Zhao Haoyan, one of his subordinates, will also come looking for trouble. Dealing with Zhao Haoyan shouldn't be an issue now. The problem lies with the creator god. There is still a considerable gap between them, and a head-on confrontation may not guarantee victory. Moreover, the most important thing is that the entire Shumi Mountain appears to be morally upright and strictly governed. In reality, it harbors filth and hidden pleasures. Everyone is selfish. If those below are like this, can those above have better thoughts? There's no need to think about it. The actions of the upper echelons influence those below, and they are the same. Especially since he is already aware of the dirty deeds done by the primordial heavenly venerable. If he can hand himself over to ensure the safety of the sect, then it's likely that no one in the entire sect will oppose it. Soon, Su Bai thought of a new plan. Bai Zhan, gather all the top 10 disciples you've defeated before to the back mountain today. No matter what means you use, they must come. Chapter 388. Since I am a disposable pawn, let everyone know my value. Su Bai shared the plan with Bai Zhan. The latter's pupils shook, and his mouth fell open. Brother Bai, are you crazy? Su Bai smiled. You have to be a little crazy to make things happen. Just follow my plan. And I guarantee that you and I will never meet again, each enjoying our own wealth and glory. Bai Zhan had already boarded a pirate ship and could not resist. That night, the gathering hall was brightly lit. The elders were still in discussion, and the atmosphere was tense. Outside the hall, the guarding disciples shouted, "Who goes there? Trespassing the gathering hall is seeking death." Before the words fell, there was a loud thud. The guarding disciple fell to the ground. The hall door opened on its own without wind. A figure stepped in slowly, the light outlining his silhouette. It was Su Bai, calm and standing in the center of the hall, his gaze sweeping over the astonished elders. The hall fell into instant silence, all eyes focused on him. The primordial heavenly venerable's gaze narrowed slightly. The newcomer was indeed Su Bai. The fifth elder shouted, "Where did this little disciple come from, daring to trespass the gathering hall? I see you want to be the first to be sent to the slaughtering immortals platform as a sacrifice." Su Bai shook his head. "Elder, no need to be anxious. How could a mere inner disciple dare to act recklessly? I come today with a heart ready for death, solely to prevent the calamity of Shumi Mountain from collapsing." The elders angrily scolded, "Arrogant. Shumi stands united in guarding the mountain. You, a mere junior, trespassing a sacred place, is a capital offense. Stay in your lane, and you might survive." The first elder, growing impatient, shot a cold glance. Enough noise. He raised his hand, and a freezing palm strike shot towards Su Bai's heart. The cold air was piercing, and the temperature in the hall dropped sharply. Su Bai remained motionless. In a critical moment, a figure flashed in and stood in front of Su Bai. Bang! The icy palm print firmly struck the chest of the newcomer. In an instant, ice crystals spread out. Crack, crack, crack. Within the blink of an eye, a lifelike ice sculpture stood in the hall, exuding an overwhelming chill. Inside the hall, there was a deathly silence. All eyes were fixed on the ice sculpture. As they recognized the face of the sculpture, everyone's pupils trembled violently. Gasps of cold air surged one after another. Ji Wuwang. It's Ji Wuwang. Why is he here? Ji Wuwang was the 7th-ranked disciple. Why did he take the deadly blow for Su Bai? Had their friendship reached this point? The entire sect was driven by personal interests. Could it be that someone would truly sacrifice themselves for another? Especially for an unknown junior. Risking their life while clashing with the elders. Was Ji Wuwang out of his mind? Before this thought could settle, at the entrance of the hall, shadows flickered. Another figure slowly stepped in, moving steadily, with a clear face. Ji Wuwang. Another Ji Wuwang. The crowd's pupils constricted, just as the astonishment began to rise. A third figure entered. Ji Wuwang. A fourth and fifth figure followed, continuously pouring in, silently and indistinguishably. Their faces were identical, their breaths the same, as if they were copies. In an instant, the hall was filled with the silhouettes of over 100 Ji Wuwangs, all exactly alike, like reflections in a mirror. The elders and disciples in the hall were completely bewildered, their minds blank. This scene exceeded their comprehension. They saw over 100 Ji Wuwangs move in perfect unison, cupping their hands in greeting and bowing respectfully. Their voices synchronized, loud and eerie. Greetings, masters and elders. Chapter 389, The Army of Clones. The corners of Su Bai's mouth lifted slightly. Masters, don't worry. There's more. As soon as he finished speaking, more figures surged in from the entrance. The 6th disciple, the 5th disciple, the 4th disciple, the 3rd disciple, the 2nd disciple, one after another, with imposing presence and stern expressions, they entered in a steady stream. In an instant, the hall was filled with shadows, squeezing in over 1,000 elite disciples from the inner sect. All were top 10 talents. Identical. Like ghostly replicas. The air in the hall seemed to be drained, creating a suffocating silence. All the elders and disciples were stunned, their minds completely blank. This scene was unfathomable. Su Bai spoke calmly, breaking the silence. I am Su Bai, a mere outer sect disciple. My ability to stand here relies entirely on this technique of mirroring. It's a life-saving skill I have never shown to others. However, the mountain gate is in grave danger. I dare to present my humble proposal. He raised his hand, pointing to the replicated figures throughout the hall, his gaze intense. Such disciples can all be replicated. Their strength is equivalent to the original. 1 against 100? Easy. 1 against 1,000? Possible. Slaying 10,000? Not difficult. With this legion, we can face the Creator God. It may not be impossible to fight back. The chaos can be preserved. Before his words could finish, a loud explosion erupted from the elders' seats. The 10 elders, their hair standing on end, looked ready to explode with rage. Su Bai, you little beast. The Grand Elder roared, his voice shaking the hall. How dare you? How dare you so profane my disciples? The 2nd elder's face twisted in anger. Shameless. This is heretical. The 3rd elder lamented, my disciple. My disciple has been turned into a puppet by you. The 4th elder pointed angrily at Su Bai. You are utterly heartless. Without any bottom line. The 5th elder trembled with rage. Such evil arts confuse the mountain gate. Must be punished. The 6th elder shouted. What have you done to them? Why do they obey you? The 7th elder's eyes were filled with malice. Let them die? They are willing. Su Bai, you have a wicked heart. The 8th elder gritted his teeth. Moral decay. How can our Sumi mountain tolerate such a monster? The 9th elder was filled with grief and anger. Return my beloved disciple's mind. Otherwise, I will turn you to ashes. The 10th elder's killing intense sword. No need for more words. Take him down. Extract his soul. Break this evil art. The waves of curses and killing intent flooded the hall. 10 terrifying presences instantly locked onto Su Bai. The atmosphere was tense, as if ready to explode. At that moment, behind Su Bai, over 1,000 replicated figures moved in perfect unison, crashing down on one knee. Facing Su Bai, their voices thundered, deafening. We are willing to die for our master. The roar drowned out all the elders' shouts. The gathering hall trembled. The primordial supreme being sat high on the platform, his gaze deep and profound, quietly watching all of this unfold. He couldn't help but smile. Replication? This young man before him indeed had a skill. If he continued to replicate, it wouldn't just be defeating the Creator God this time. Even reclaiming the higher dimensional continent through infinite replication wouldn't be impossible. Moreover, in his eyes, Su Bai's strength was nothing significant. As long as the other party does not copy it onto themselves, then no matter how much Su Bai replicates, it will be of no use. After all, both sides know each other well, and taking his life would be as easy as lifting a hand. However, on the surface, the primordial supreme being stroked his beard. Although he had no morals and was shameless, this plan was indeed clever. As long as the battle ahead allowed these replicas to take action, the main body would not suffer harm. Instead, it would be more morally upright, for this is the way of the saints. What the primordial supreme being did not know was that this afternoon, Baijan had tricked all the disciples, except for Song Qingshu, who could not be mobilized, to the back mountain. They were then controlled by Yuri and sent to the replication center for repeated copying. In the end, the true body was directly targeted and executed by the soldiers. This meant that there was no true body at all, they were all replicas. Chapter 390. The task is completed, and Subai receives a wife. The primordial supreme being's gaze was piercing as he stared at Subai. This technique is profound. How to execute it? It is beneficial for coordination and strategizing against the enemy. The corners of Subai's mouth curved slightly, as if he had anticipated this. Master, please take a look. With a slight movement of his mind, a hum resonated. In the square outside the hall, space twisted. A large, exotic-looking metallic base vehicle appeared out of thin air. It unfolded instantly. Following that, a complex, cold-lined, bizarre building rose from the ground. The replication center. Light swirled, and energy fluctuated. The base vehicle then became ethereal and merged into Subai's brow. Master, the disciples have entered this center. One person enters, and two people come out. Replication is complete. Subai raised his hand to indicate. Zhuge Xian, the 8th-ranked disciple, stepped forward. Under everyone's gaze, he entered the replication center. Lights and shadows flickered. Moments later, the center's main door opened. Two identical Zhuge Xians walked out side by side. Their aura, demeanor, and cultivation were indistinguishable. Inside the hall, a dead silence fell once again. The faces of the elders turned pale, yet they could not refute this miraculous technique. The eyes of the primordial supreme being sparkled with brilliance. Sure enough, it was necessary to enter that strange building. As long as he did not step inside, this child would forever remain within his grasp. A pawn is ultimately just a pawn. Ha ha. The primordial supreme being clapped his hands and laughed, his voice echoing through the hall. Good, good, good. Heaven bless my Shumi mountain. Subai? The supreme being's gaze was like a torch, locking onto Subai. From this day forth, you shall be my chief disciple. A disciple of the closed door. He then continued, his tone leaving no room for doubt. Hongye shall remain in her chamber. You two shall marry before the battle, strengthening bonds to resist external enemies together. Hongye? Subai had no impression of her in his mind. However, the goal had been achieved. He bowed and paid his respects. The voice was calm and steady. Thank you for your generous grace. Yet a barely perceptible curve appeared at the corner of the lips. The master nodded in satisfaction. The atmosphere in the hall was strangely ambiguous. Beneath the festive surface, dark currents surged, each harboring their own secrets. On the other side, outside the Red Leaf Cave, the moonlight was cold. Song Qingshu paced back and forth, his shadow stretching and shrinking. He stopped in front of the cave entrance. His voice tinged with a hint of barely noticeable tension. Miss Red Leaf, did you like the mystical bird I sent you last time? Inside the cave? A lazy voice replied, slightly muffled by the barriers. Oh, that bird? It's fine, I suppose. The little girl found it interesting and played with it. A smile froze on Song Qingshu's face. Was it joy? Sadness? It was hard to tell. The mystical bird was something he had painstakingly captured amidst the fierce winds of the 9 heavens. She had given it to a maid. A heavy feeling settled in his heart. He took a deep breath, trying to suppress the rising emotions. Red Leaf, about our marriage. He raised his voice slightly. Filled with hope, I have informed the master. He said that after this battle, he will agree to us. You can rest assured. Song Qingshu clenched his fists. His gaze resolute. On the battlefield, I will never die. I must return alive. When the time comes, our wedding will be celebrated joyfully. Even the master will be happy. Inside the cave, there was a moment of silence. The sound of water faintly reached his ears. Red Leaf's voice, tinged with a hint of impatience at being disturbed, came through. Song Shige, I'm taking a bath right now. I will rest after I finish. Let us talk tomorrow. The word bath struck like a spark into dry tinder. Song Qingshu's body tensed up. A wave of heat surged suddenly from his lower abdomen. His mind flashed with images of steam and water. A delicate arm lifted, water droplets sliding down. His throat tightened, and his breath became heavy. An overwhelming impulse almost shattered his reason. He wanted to burst through the cave door, tear aside the bothersome shower curtain. Then, thoughts blazed like wildfire. But in the next second, the cold reality doused him. Red Leaf was the beloved of the master. If he dared, he would be utterly lost. It would be a light punishment to say he would never be reborn. Song Qingshu bit his tongue sharply. The pain jolted him back to clarity. He forcibly suppressed the surging desire, his voice dry. Okay you wash. I have patrol duties. I'll take my leave now. He turned and almost fled, his steps unsteady. His silhouette in the moonlight appeared both disheveled and desolate. Inside the cave, the sound of water continued. No further response came. Chapter 391. The incompetent Song Qingshu returned to the outer gate patrol headquarters, his footsteps heavy. As he stepped through the entrance, he heard a few whispers from the shadows in the corner. Have you heard? A new figure named Su Bai has emerged from the inner sect and can replicate techniques. Incredible. The leader, no, the esteemed one, is overjoyed. He directly named him the chief disciple, and then in a hushed tone, filled with envy. He has even been promised to senior sister Hongya. Wow, senior sister Hongya. That figure, TSK, looks so good you could wring water out of her. That lucky guy. Who knows where he came from? What a stroke of fortune. I'll have to get closer to him sometime and learn his skills. Haha. Song Qingshu felt as if struck by lightning. He froze in place, his pupils instantly losing focus. Hongya was promised to Su Bai, the chief disciple? The esteemed one had promised me. He had personally agreed to my marriage with Hongya after the battle. How could this be? Has he gone back on his word? A chilling rage surged from his feet, mixed with an overwhelming anger, shooting straight to the top of his head. His mind went blank for a moment. In the next second, his figure vanished like a ghost. When he reappeared, he was already behind the whispering disciples. His hand shot out like an iron claw. Ah, who? The startled cries had barely begun when the necks of the three disciples were firmly grasped. Like lifting a small chicken, Song Qingshu forcefully hoisted them up. Their feet left the ground, struggling futilely. With bloodshot eyes, Song Qingshu's voice turned icy, each word squeezed out through clenched teeth. Tell me, who is Hongya promised to? Su Bai? The disciple, struggling for breath, managed to spit out the name. The new inner sect member, quite skilled. The leader personally consented to the marriage. Song Qingshu's grip tightened violently. His knuckles turned white. Ugh. The disciple rolled his eyes back. Get lost. With a flick of his arm, the three disciples flew out like a broken sack, crashing heavily against the wall, unconscious. His figure flashed again, transforming into a streak of light, rushing straight towards the Hall of Gathering Talents. The hall doors were wide open. The esteemed one still sat on the high platform, eyes closed in meditation. Master. Song Qingshu burst into the hall, his voice carrying a barely perceptible tremor. I heard that Hongya has been promised to Su Bai. He fixed his gaze intensely on the esteemed one. The esteemed one slowly opened his eyes, his gaze calm and unwavering. Just one word, heavy as 1,000 pounds, struck hard at Song Qingshu's heart. This matter, I have already agreed to. The esteemed one's voice was indifferent. Tomorrow, Hongya will marry Su Bai. Song Qingshu felt as if he had been struck by lightning. His whole body trembled violently. His face turned pale as paper in an instant. Master. His voice was hoarse, filled with incredible grief and anger. You promised the disciple before. After the battle, Yuan Shi Tianzuan slightly lifted his eyelids. His gaze was deep, devoid of any emotion. This is one time, and that is another. Su Bai's abilities are crucial for the survival of the sect. The bond between Hongya and him is even more appropriate. Just now, I have already let Su Bai leave first. The tone of the Tianzuan was flat, yet every word cut like a knife. To seek out Hongya, the two of them have deep feelings for each other. Deep feelings. Song Qingshu's mind exploded. It felt as if something had shattered completely. He froze in place. His blood seemed to freeze. A chilling despair, mixed with overwhelming rage, instantly consumed him. The candlelight in the hall flickered, illuminating his pale, twisted face. And those eyes, gradually losing their luster, now only reflected dead silence and madness. His hand unconsciously pressed against the hilt of the sword at his waist. The knuckles cracked from the force. From the scabbard, a barely noticeable low hum came forth. Chapter 392. The ineptitude of the returned Song Qingshu on the other side. The disciple led the way. Su Bai arrived at Hongya's cave dwelling. The restrictions opened. He stepped inside. The fragrance of flowers wafted, rich in spiritual energy. Deep within the cave, in front of a dressing table, sat a figure with her back turned. Her long hair cascaded down to her waist. Holding a comb in her jade hand, she was slowly grooming her hair. Su Bai's gaze settled. The figure was familiar. His heart stirred slightly. The woman slowly turned around. Her features revealed themselves. Bright eyes and white teeth, her glance sparkling. It was indeed her. The mysterious woman who had once seen through his ambush in the bamboo forest. Su Bai's pupils contracted. Is it her? So she is Hongya, the daughter of Yuan Shi Tianzuan. Their eyes met. In Hongya's eyes, there was neither surprise nor joy. Calm as water. Yet, the corners of her mouth lifted slightly in a barely perceptible arc. Almost a smile. Su Bai? She spoke, her voice cold. I've heard much about you. Su Bai suppressed the turmoil in his heart. He nodded. Senior sister Hongya. A pleasure to meet you. Inside the cave, the atmosphere was subtle. Hongya's gaze shifted, landing on Su Bai. I heard your copying technique can gather a myriad of troops. Her voice remained cold, yet carried a hint of subtle probing. In this battle, the safety of Shumi Mountain depends on you. You must protect the sect. She paused, her tone seemingly carrying a certain insistence. Protect the master. This place is the only sacred land untouched by the Creator. Sacred land? Su Bai's lips curled into a mocking smile. Miss Hong, do you really believe that? His gaze was sharp, staring directly at Hong Yi. The hierarchy is strict, and bullying is rampant. Corruption is widespread, and filth is hidden everywhere. Everyone harbors ulterior motives. If it weren't for my encounter with that old deity in the higher dimension, I would have nowhere to escape. Su Bai's voice was cold. I wouldn't come here even if invited. His words were sharp, hitting the core directly. He dared to speak so bluntly, relying on the previous incident in the bamboo forest. Hong Yi had seen through the ambush, but did not expose it. She was not a mere echo of the primordial supreme. Upon hearing this, Hong Yi did not get angry. Instead, she gently nodded. I know. Her voice was calm, acknowledging this unfortunate reality. Because of this, Hong Yi raised her eyes to look at Su Bai, a glimmer in her gaze. We must. She seemed to be weighing her words. Focus on the essence? Transform this place into a paradise beyond the law. Su Bai raised an eyebrow. That goal is indeed grand, but also naive. However, Hong Yi had already approached. Her steps light and fragrant. She stopped in front of Su Bai. Rest assured. Her voice softened, carrying a strange sense of reassurance. As husband and wife, I will surely support you well. As she spoke, she extended her delicate hand, naturally resting it on Su Bai's outer robe. Her fingertips were cool, with a gentle flick. She was about to help him remove his outer garment. The movement was soft, carrying an unspoken intimacy and promise. Su Bai's body stiffened slightly. He did not move. Nor did he stop her. He merely lowered his gaze, looking at that hand so close and those deep, unfathomable eyes. Inside the cave, the candlelight flickered. Shadows danced uncertainly between the two. At that moment, a loud banging came from outside the door. Hong Yi, it's me, Qing Shu. Open the door quickly. I have something important to tell you. Senior brother Song, please go back. Miss Hong is already asleep. Let's talk tomorrow. Several female disciples tried to stop Song Qing Shu outside the door. Unfortunately, Song Qing Shu's voice grew louder. Chapter 393. Poor Song Qing Shu. Hong Yi frowned slightly. Raising her voice a bit toward the door, she feigned weakness. Senior brother Song, I have already gone to bed. Let us talk tomorrow. Outside. Song Qing Shu's voice paused for a moment, then became urgent. Why does your voice sound so weak? Are you sick? Running a fever? No worries. I'll come in and help you dispel the cold. Don't. Hong Ye's voice carried a hint of panic. Don't come in. Inside the room. Su Bai smiled silently. A hint of amusement flickered in his eyes. He gently pushed aside the red leaves and said softly, let him in. Why not? After saying that, without waiting for a response, he turned and walked straight towards the entrance of the cave. The door creaked as it was suddenly pulled open. The figure of Su Bai appeared clearly at the doorway, bathed in moonlight. Outside the door, Song Qing Shu, who was about to force his way in, froze in his tracks. His pupils suddenly contracted. It was as if struck by a bolt of divine thunder, turning him into stone in an instant. Su Bai, how could he be in the cave of the red leaves at this hour? The weak voice of the red leaves echoed in his mind. She didn't want to deal with you. Su Bai's voice was calm, yet coldly penetrating. Don't you understand? Song Qing Shu's gaze fixed on Su Bai. This face was more handsome than his own. This identity, newly appointed top disciple. He had taken his place. And now, he appeared in the fragrant boudoir of the red leaves at this late hour. All his jealousy, anger, unwillingness, and humiliation exploded at that moment. Su Bai. Song Qing Shu's eyes were bloodshot, his voice twisted and trembling with extreme rage. You. I will duel with you. If you have the guts, face me one-on-one. His roar echoed in the silent valley. Su Bai looked at him as one would at a clown, the corner of his mouth curling into a faint sneer. I refuse. His tone was dismissive. As the top disciple, I have the right to ignore your challenge as the second-rate. He paused, his gaze sweeping over Song Qing Shu's pale, twisted face, suddenly adopting a tone that was ambiguous. Almost cruel. It's nothing, you may leave. The red leaves, she's feeling a bit hot. I'm just helping her sweat it out. Helping her sweat it out. Those 3 words pierced Song Qing Shu's heart like the most vicious curse. His vision suddenly darkened. Blood surged in reverse. The world spun around him. He staggered back a step, nearly fainting on the spot. The sounds and colors of the entire world faded away in an instant, leaving only boundless darkness and a buzzing noise. He didn't know how he turned around, how he descended the mountain, or how he returned to that cold, empty cave. The door closed behind him, darkness swallowing everything. He slumped to the ground, motionless, as if the entire world had nothing to do with him anymore. The sky had truly darkened. Sunset. Sunrise. The next day, the mountain gate is adorned with lanterns and colorful decorations. The sounds of celebration are incessant. with everyone praising Su Bai for being worthy of a beautiful partner. The few disciples from the outer sect's kitchen brigade who had miraculously survived are now glowing with excitement. Rushing around the inner sect, they boast to anyone they meet about their close friendship with Su Bai. Brother Su, righteous, standing tall, ever since he joined the kitchen brigade. We've been the best in the outer sect. Who dares to provoke us? The inner sect disciples look on with skepticism, but do not dare to disrespect them. The 9 major disciples have somber expressions. The fragments of the Great Path have long been plundered by Su Bai. With this joyous occasion, they have also distributed celebratory money. Su Bai, showing no restraint, takes his share, calling it a shared joy. They grit their teeth, taking out their savings, their hearts bleeding. Chapter 394. The betrayal of Song Qingshu in the Hall of Gathering. The banquet is about to begin. The primordial heavenly sovereign sits at the main seat. Scanning the crowd below, his brows furrow slightly. Where's Qingshu? He turns to the elder beside him and inquires, why hasn't he arrived? The elder bows respectfully and whispers. Returning to the sovereign, young Master Song said he is diligently practicing his swordsmanship, wishing to engage in a life-and-death battle with the Creator God. The elder's voice drops lower. He said that in this battle, if the Creator God does not die, he certainly will. Hearing this, the primordial heavenly sovereign's expression remains unchanged, only giving a faint nod. A good child. If he doesn't come, then so be it. His tone is neutral, devoid of any emotion. If he dies, it is also glorious. His words are light, as if he is speaking of a trivial object rather than one of his most outstanding disciples. Just a disciple. If he dies, so be it. Within the mountain gate, disciples are the least of what they lack. Old ones die, new ones emerge. There will always be replacements. Moreover, a cold glint flashes in the depths of the primordial heavenly sovereign's eyes. The existence of Song Qingshu poses a potential obstacle for Hongya and Su Bai in the future. Now, as he seeks death himself, it saves some trouble. Unbeknownst to the primordial heavenly sovereign, at this moment, Song Qingshu's cave is empty. A phantom clone remains behind to practice swordsmanship, while his true body has quietly escaped from Mount Shumi using secret methods. Outside the mountain, at the edge of the universe, chaotic energy surges. The army of the Creator God spreads out like a dark cloud, the aura of slaughter freezing the void. At the forefront of the military formation stands Zhao Haoyan, clad in an official robe, his presence more somber and menacing than ever. A shadow approaches quietly, landing before him, revealing Song Qingshu's pale and resolute face. General Zhao, Song Qingshu's voice is hoarse. The news is absolutely reliable. It is indeed that Su Bai. He laid out the defenses of the Shumi Mountain, the replication technique of Su Bai, and even the schemes of the primordial heavenly venerable, revealing everything. As Zhao Haoyan listened, a cold light suddenly shone in his eyes. Like a venomous snake, he had finally locked onto his prey. Su Bai? It truly is you. From the low-level blue planet, to the myriad demon realms, and now to this high dimension. Like a nightmare, you have repeatedly obstructed my path. Today, I will crush you completely. Brother Song, well done. Zhao Haoyan suppressed the surging killing intent, his voice laced with a hint of insincere praise. From now on, you are one of us. He patted Song Qingshu on the shoulder. Once we break through the position of the leader of Shumi Mountain, it will still be yours. Zhao Haoyan's tone shifted, filled with malicious temptation. That Su Bai took your wife. I will ensure that he is utterly destroyed, never to be reborn. As for Hongya, a cruel smile crept onto his lips. She has only been with him for 2 nights, so the damage is not severe. At least she is still 99% new. When the time comes, she will return to your side. Song Qingshu's body trembled slightly, complex emotions flashing in his eyes, ultimately consumed by hatred. You go back first and lie low. Zhao Haoyan commanded. At the critical moment, listen to my orders. Saying this, he took out an object. A short blade. Dark and dull, yet exuding a chilling aura of destruction. God-slaying blade. This blade severs causality and annihilates gods and demons. Zhao Haoyan handed over the blade, his gaze profound. When the time comes, act according to my signal. Song Qingshu took the blade. The cold touch spread along his arm. He nodded heavily. Turning, he melted into the darkness. Zhao Haoyan watched the direction he vanished into, his smile fading, leaving only coldness. Su Bai, your time has come. Chapter 395. War officially begins. High-dimensional continent versus Shumi Mountain. Days later, the edge of the universe trembled. Zhao Haoyan's vanguard army had fully crossed the dimensional barrier, arriving at the foot of Shumi Mountain. A dark and oppressive battle formation radiated destructive energy waves, stirring chaos. Zhao Haoyan hovered at the front of the formation, holding the defensive map presented by Song Qingshu. A cold arc curved at the corner of his mouth. All troops. He raised his hand, pointing directly to the west side of Shumi Mountain. Attack. The command transformed into invisible ripples spreading out. In front of all the invading high-dimensional elite professionals, a virtual menu instantly popped up. Break the Shumi Mountain West defense. Reward items were listed, with divine skills, secret treasures, and insights that were extremely tempting. Kill. A roar mixing greed and killing intent shattered the void. In the next moment, a torrent of destructive energy surged forth. Laws and divine powers, forbidden spells shining brightly, giant mechanical beings, and true bloodline forms surged like a cosmic tsunami towards the west gate of Shumi Mountain, crashing violently. The brilliance instantly engulfed that expanse of space. Almost simultaneously, the alarm of Mount Shumi rang continuously, and the protective formation flickered violently, barely withstanding the first wave of impact. In front of the Hall of Gathering Heroes, the figure of the primordial supreme being emerged, exuding immense pressure. His voice echoed through the mountain gates. Disciples, this battle concerns our survival. Mount Shumi will surely prevail. Down the mountain, countless inner and outer disciples turned pale, their hands gripping, swords trembling slightly. The enemy's momentum was overwhelming. Just as panic began to spread, a buzzing sound erupted. Subai's figure appeared at the mountain's peak. Behind him, the silent army of duplicates surged forth like a tidal wave. Tens of thousands, all resembling the top 10 elite disciples of the inner gate. Their auras merged into one, radiating a murderous intent that soared to the heavens. The once panicked disciples of Mount Shumi instantly calmed down. Kill. Subai raised his hand and softly uttered a single word. In the next moment, the army of duplicates moved. Like a frenzied swarm of bees, they fearlessly charged against the devastating energy torrent, pushing upward defiantly. Boom! The two torrents collided. In an instant, the high-dimensional battlefield erupted in chaos. The space, fragile like glass, crumbled and vanished in large chunks. The chains of the laws shattered, and energy storms rampaged. The duplicates, expressionless, unleashed their strongest abilities, engaging in brutal combat with those high-dimensional professionals. Sword light tore through dimensions, fist imprints exploded stars, and laws annihilated all. Countless duplicates were obliterated into pure energy points under the terrifying attacks, yet new duplicates surged forward without hesitation. The front lines instantly fell into a brutal war of attrition. Blood mixed with energy, severed limbs, and fragments of treasures flew everywhere. The sounds of roars, explosions, and the shattering of laws became the sole tone of this battlefield. The aura of destruction permeated every corner. The high-dimensional army was momentarily stunned. The intel was wrong. Where were the top 10 disciples? What were these densely packed, countless strong beings with indistinguishable auras before them? Their offensive momentum faltered. Panic spread like a plague among the invaders. The army of duplicates ruthlessly advanced, unleashing their abilities. In an instant, the high-dimensional vanguard suffered heavy casualties, their formation in disarray, crying for help, collapsing into chaos. Useless. Zhao Haoyan's gaze was cold and piercing. Yet he seemed to have expected this. He snorted coldly and drew the heaven-opening sword from his back. The sword was ancient, yet it contained the power to open chaos. Clone, he shouted. With a tremor of the heaven-opening sword in his hand, brilliance flowed. 1 gives birth to 2. 2 gives birth to 3. 3 gives birth to infinity. In an instant, countless clones materialized around Zhao Haoyan's main body as the core. They filled the void densely. Each clone wielded the shadow of the heaven-opening sword. Although their auras were slightly inferior to the main body, they were equally fierce and unmatched. Kill. Countless Zhao Haoyan opened their mouths simultaneously, creating an unmatched wave of sound. In the next moment, this torrent of avatars violently collided with Su Bai's army of clones. Boom. Boom boom boom. The center of the battlefield transformed into a vortex of destruction. The shadows of the sword clashed with the divine powers of Shumi Mountain in a frenzy. Avatars and clones continuously perished, resurrected, and clashed again. The laws shattered, and the space collapsed in chunks, forming countless void-like areas. Terrifying shockwaves spread out in layers. The high-dimensional professionals and disciples of Shumi Mountain, who had been eager to engage, were left in shock. This level of confrontation far exceeded their imagination, not to mention intervening. Even getting close to the battlefield's edge could result in their souls being obliterated by the terrifying energy dispersing from the clash. They could only retreat far away, dumbfounded, watching this divine battle that intertwined creation and destruction. Chapter 396. The strength of Su Bai's new wife. The situation on the battlefield quietly tilted. A cold smile crept onto Zhao Haoyan's lips. His avatar technique was extraordinarily cunning. Not only could it infinitely divide, but it could also merge at any time. Several avatars instantly fused into a fearsome 3-headed, 6-armed battle form, their power skyrocketing. They precisely seized the subtle gaps in the clone's divine powers and launched fatal strikes. One clone after another was forcibly exploded, turning into points of light that dissipated. Although new clones continued to surge from the rear, The rate of annihilation gradually exceeded the rate of reinforcement. The dark mass of avatars surged forward like a tide, consuming the light, step by step pressing toward the main hall of Shumi Mountain. The terrifying pressure made the heavens and the earth lose their color. Not good. The face of the primordial heavenly venerable finally changed. He shouted angrily toward the foot of the mountain. Hurry, all elite disciples. Enter the cloning center. Quickly. His voice carried a hint of barely perceptible panic. Standing beside Su Bai, Hongya had changed from her red attire into combat gear. She looked at the primordial heavenly venerable. Her voice calm. Father, let me go? The primordial heavenly venerable was taken aback. Hongya, you. Before he could finish his sentence, Hongya had transformed into a streak of colorful light, soaring into the sky. Like a startled swan, she dove directly into the most chaotic core of the battlefield. With a graceful wave of her hand, she elegantly unleashed her 9-turn water sleeves. It appeared gentle and ethereal, yet it stirred the laws of heaven and earth. As the water sleeves passed, a hazy brilliance spread out, akin to a pure lotus blooming. The tens of thousands of Zhao Haoyan's avatars charging at the forefront were gently swept by this radiance. Their movements instantly froze. Immediately after, like sand sculptures blown away by the wind, they silently turned into flying ashes. Annihilated, completely vanished. With one move, the battlefield was cleared for miles. The originally boisterous sounds of battle came to a halt, countless gazes fixated in shock on that red figure. Su Bai stood atop the mountain, his brows suddenly furrowed. His gaze, sharp as a blade, fixed intently on the lithe figure in the air. He was reassessing, evaluating the true strength of his newlywed wife. This seemingly casual strike far exceeded that of the inner sect's top disciples. It was even unfathomable. Shumi Mountain had never been a place of kindness. How could the daughter of the primordial heavenly sovereign be simple? A chill swept through Su Bai's eyes. Husband? Ally? Perhaps in the next moment, those seemingly delicate water sleeves would strike towards his throat. Caution was necessary. In an instant, the tide of battle was forcibly turned by the red leaves. The pressure on the replicated army drastically decreased, pushing forward again and forcing the black tide of clones back. Zhao Haoyan's main body trembled, a trace of blood spilling from the corner of his mouth. He suddenly looked up, his fierce gaze piercing through the chaotic battlefield, locking onto the blinding red in the air. That wretched woman, he roared, his voice twisted with rage, daring to ruin my plans. Die. I despise women meddling. Amidst his roar, Zhao Haoyan's main body wielded the heaven-splitting sword, transforming into a streak of black lightning that tore through the void, charging fiercely at the red leaves. The killing intent was overwhelming. Before the sword arrived, the sharp sword aura had already caused the space to shatter inch by inch. In the air, the red leaves sensed this resolute killing intent and terrifying pressure. Her expression remained icy. With a flick of her delicate wrist, an ancient sword imbued with chaotic aura and natural Dao rhythm quietly appeared. Hongmeng's sword. She raised the sword to meet him. Her movements were graceful, yet carried an undeniable determination. Clang! The heaven-splitting sword collided with the Hongmeng sword. Two divine weapons containing supreme power crashed together. A terrifying shockwave exploded outward in a circular pattern, instantly clearing everything within 10,000 zhang. Clones, replicas, and even the very fabric of space were utterly obliterated. Immediately after, the two figures wildly intertwined at the center of the explosion. Sword lights crisscrossed for billions of miles. Each collision was like stars collapsing, the law